Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. It is so good to be back. Here it is, a Monday. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. It has been a busy couple of days for me. Needless to say, anybody who's ever, has a job and takes time off, you know exactly what Mondays are like after returning. There's a pile of stuff. You're so far behind. You got a lot to get caught up on. And of course, everybody wants everything right now. I want to say this. I apologize to and I've got a whole slew of messages I got to go through after we're done tonight. I apologize for everybody who I haven't been able to get to. As I said, just got back from the NOWT, which we'll be talking about tonight. Also, we're going to be talking about the OFC Nation retreat. Moose, our buddy, is going to be hopefully showing up later on to talk about it. We got a bunch of other things too, including, of course, the mystery, whatever this is, because I'm not going to tell you. Although there are, let's just say, Blake Rader, James Shemry, Brian Sturch, Ed McKenzie, Jeremy Blencoe, Curtis Smith, Corey, and Big Jim, of all people, have answered it correctly. We're going to spice things up a little bit because we didn't have enough people chime in, but we will get to that and a whole bunch of other things. But what I want to do first is I want to bring up our good buddy. Well, you know what I want to first do is say hello to everybody. Steve, how you doing, buddy? I love your posts. I love the commemorative garden to Serena. I know you folks are busy in court right now. Our thoughts are with the Shaw family as it is tough times, but buddy, we thank you for all you do. Walter, as well. You really picked up the slack this weekend because Steve and I were kind of AWOL, but needless to say, it's a team effort, and we couldn't do it with all the moving parts in place. Lloyd, nice to see you. Jeremy, as always, it's a pleasure. Richard, how you doing, my friend? Mark's in the house. Rob's here. Mark, yeah, baby, nice to see you too. Bob Bissonette, nice to see you as well. I believe it was your father it's his birthday, Bob. I saw that post today. Yes, you're right, Jeremy. It was a busy weekend, and thanks so much for all those who chimed in to the lives that we did up at Matagami First Nations. Absolutely fantastic. Eve's in the house. Steven's here. Sparkus, yeah, baby. Curtis Smith, I'm sure you just heard your name. You got it right, too. Anyway, we will be getting to this because we're going to extend because the gentleman that donated this as well as the prize wants to see more names. So it's on you. But those who have already answered, you get a bonus. So stay tuned for that. As well, as I said, we'll be talking about the OFC Nation retreat that's going to be coming up in 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks to think about it, but do not delay because there's not a lot of room left, if any. I can't imagine that there is much room left. But on that note, we want to bring Big Jim up first. He's got some things that he's dealing with in regards to his septic, and he asked if he could go first. So let's get to him right after a word from this sponsor. Here he is, the one and only Big Jim McLaughlin.
What's going on?
Tell us about your raw deal. Your
it's
foul play.
It comes out of the tank.
Yeah.
There's a little there's a clamp that holds the hose that leads out to the weeper, and the hose cracked right at the clamp. So it'll take my buddy about 20 minutes to fix it. So.
But he's on his way, so we want to make sure that we get to you, talk to you, and find out what you've been up to. How you been doing? Have you been doing you been doing well in the Back Bay?
Yeah, I've been getting a few. Got a couple. That's what I was telling you last night. I was down there till after dark, and I'm supposed to be home when the street light comes on, but I stayed out late last night. So there's a street light at the boat launch that comes on, and it's so funny. I always tell Tammy in the fall, because of the time it comes on at, it's earlier. It's getting darker earlier. The fish bite.
Yep.
5 minutes after that light comes on. And it's got nothing to do with them seeing the light or anything. It's like 100 yards away. But there's something about it. So I was down there last night, and I'm looking at it thinking to myself, how come the light isn't on yet? Because it's like dark. So I guess the sensor must be gummed up or something, whatever. And all of a sudden, poof, the light comes on. And I'm reeling in a big swim bait. Something along the size of this type thing. And I lifted out of the water, and there's a big kaboosh. It was big old largemouth. All I saw was the great big white mouth, but he didn't get it because it was already out of the water when he made his move on it. But you can't see because it's dark,
Right.
So it was fun out there. Yeah, no, it's been good. But I told you about my phone call today. So I don't know whether anybody saw the post I did a few weeks ago about my adventures with being an osprey saver.
Yes.
We found the osprey, and I got the osprey. It was up in a parking lot, that it was in a ball diamond, that it was in my backyard. So I thought to myself, well, I'm going to get you. I'm going to wait till the morning, see if you're okay. And I look out in the morning, and he hasn't moved. And we had gone down, and we put a piece of, I don't know, codfish or something beside him raw out of the freezer, and he never touched it. I didn't know if he'd eat it. I put a piece of ham out for him. Didn't eat. I don't know whether ospreys eat ham. I don't know. You're starving, but whatever. We put a buffet around him there, and he's still sitting there in the morning. So I got the blanket out and threw it over him, and I got him up beside me there. And I've never had an osprey. I've never held an osprey before, let alone a wild one. And I got him up there, and I got him in a box, and I drove him down to White Pines Animal Rescue in Napanee. They were the closest place that would take him, and they came right out, grabbed the box. Oh my God, an osprey! And they all run away, and leave me standing in the park. I'm like, hey, you stole my bird! Bring it back. So, anyways, when the lady was there, I said to her, I said, hey, do me a favor. I said, like, if he's okay or she's okay, would you? I don't mind coming back and getting it and letting it go where it sort of was growing up, So the phone rings today, and I see the thing come up, the Pines Animal Rescue. I answer the phone. I go, Ozzy's house. Well, the lady burst out laughing, and she just burst out laughing. She said, Ozzy is one of our favorites. But she said, is this Jim? I said, yeah. She said, Jim, she said, Ozzy's ready to go. He's ready to be released. He's going to be released. And you had said you would like to come and get him. If not, we can release him into a suitable area. Right. I said, no, I'm coming to get him. I'll be there tomorrow. And then they didn't want me to get him tomorrow because it's supposed to be cloudy and rainy. So I'm going to get him on Wednesday morning. I'm going to bring him home. And hopefully he just goes out of the box like a shot and he's gone and I never see him again. Like, go do your thing, Ozzy. But no, she said he's very healthy. And I asked him if it was a he or she. And they said, we don't know because it was a young bird and they don't like to handle them any more than necessary because they don't want to imprint on them, humans. So they don't do stuff that they don't need to do. And she said he eats well, he's healthy. He was just exhausted.
Yep.
We got him because he'd been bouncing and it was like 33 degrees that day.
Yep.
Heck, if I'd have sat in the sun for half the day, I'd have been exhausted.
Exactly.
But, yeah. So anyways, that's what I'm going to do Wednesday. So nice. That's kind of cool. Saturday morning, I went to Ottawa, met up with all my buddies from high school for breakfast.
Yeah.
That was always a good time. We had 22, 23 guys, and we lost another one, though. So I'm just hoping that not in the near future that they show up and say they lost me.
Yeah, Jim, don't say that. Let's not say that. Let's not talk about that.
No, that shit. But yeah, no, it was. I've been busy. We're working on the fall issue with the pre-ice section.
Nice. And
everything. Got lots of stuff. Just got the Shimano ads about an hour ago, and got some Hummingbird ads just came in today, and a whole bunch of other stuff. The OFAH and other stuff. So Tammy's takes her a little more time now to get it together than it used to. So yep. she's been busy at it there, and then we had dinner, and she's downstairs playing with her quilt and stuff now. So.
Right on.
And we're just waiting to hear about that house.
Yes.
I'm ready. I'm going to pull the trigger. If I can get into that house, I'm going to go. It's about a third the size of this. It's 30 feet from the water. And as I said to the real estate agent, Dave, my buddy, I said it's about 18 clicks downstream. So I'm just going to be a little bit closer to Kingston, same waterway.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. It's on a portion of water that when I guided in or when I was fishing tournaments, I used to guide a lot of the days too. This is where I used to guide one of the lakes, and so I know it like the back of my hand. And it's like a fall jackpot type thing. There's a spot in that lake where the Rideau Canal system. When you're headed up to the lake, up to Whitefish with me here, you have that little neck down.
Yep.
And it's hard to imagine that the Rideau Lake system drains through something the width of your living room. Well, there's a spot down there that's about probably 300 yards long, and it's the same thing.
Wow.
It necks right down before it opens up into the last lake, before it goes underneath the 401 and down into Lake Ontario. And in the fall, people don't realize that largemouths, like, I'm always talking about location. And in the fall, the largemouths in rivers, and that little piece just acts like a river because of the current flow. And the largemouths just literally come to that current in the fall. When all the weeds are dying and it's gunky and everything, they just come to that something fierce. And it's funny because I had fished there in the summer guiding. Yeah, you always went by because, you could get guys throwing a spinnerbait or something. They'd catch a couple of 2-pound smallmouths and, maybe they're 4-pounders now. I don't know. I haven't been there in years, but you'd catch a couple of largemouths. Maybe if you used to get the odd good pike, it'd be, maybe 6, 7, 8 pounds, which when you're guiding people that don't fish, 6, 7, 8 pound pike's a treat,
Yeah.
They go pretty wild. And then it would come to the middle of October and you'd go and catch 60 or 70 largemouths without moving the boat. You'd literally just meander back and forth. And they were just everywhere. Like it was like stupid. And it's I can see those marker buoys at the neck down from the dock where I would be living.
Oh, it's that close.
Yeah, it's like 400 yards away, maybe.
Oh, wow. 500
yards. So I could swim out. I could get a pool noodle and get over there in the evenings when the water's warm. Not October, though.
All right. Well, folks are asking for video. I'm going to assume that's of the release of the Osprey, not you. On
yeah,
the
I'm going to. In fact,
film it, Jim. Yeah, absolutely.
I can just see a picture of me like Homer Simpson on the ground with this thing stuck to my face.
But
Tammy-
speaking of lots of bass, I saw this clip from the good boys over at Linder's Angling Edge, and I thought of
Come
you
any better than
immediately.
that.
Yeah, and I know that you'll be able to elaborate to some degree, but just have a listen to James feed us some very intuitive
Catching
knowledge.
fish is ultimately finding fish. Right here, I have a map of Mille Lacs Lake, and I love fishing for smallmouth bass and walleyes and muskies and even carp on this lake. But I'll give you an idea for late summer into fall for smallmouth bass. The biggest thing is to find the biggest food shelves, and what I mean by that are these big underwater reef complexes, and you'll see one right here at the mouth of Lock-On Bay. This is Spider Island area. You have another one right here. You have another one off Anderson's Agate Reef, another one up on Miramar Reef System. Then you have another one off of Rainbow. But the thing is at this time of the year, the fish are shifting. They're dumping out into deeper water. Throughout the summer months, you can catch them on top water, swim baits, crankbaits up in shallow water throughout the summer, depending on the food and where the fish are positioning on these shelves. But as that water gets cooler, the fish dump deeper, anywhere between 12 and maybe to the deepest edge, about 20 foot of water, or where the rocks transition into the soft bottom and sand at the base of these reef systems. So right now, one of the really key is to go out along these reef systems and get off the deeper perimeters of these structures to find big concentrations of smallmouth bass. It's that simple. One of the biggest things about
And it really is that simple, Jim. At least it seems simple when they say it.
Remember the day we spent out here last fall when
Yeah.
we were alone, just the two of us?
Yeah.
Remember I caught some fish, one here, one there off a rock point. I caught the really nice one off the rock point up by the mouth and things like that. Individual fish off small pieces of shoreline rock that had deep water.
Mhm.
And then later in the day when we started catching all the fish and I went to that one big spot that I told you about, and we went to, and then the week after it was the same thing, and the week before when you weren't there, it was the same thing for me. And what it is you get a bigger spot like that can hold more fish. Now it's all relative, like you heard him say up to 20 feet. Well, it doesn't work like that out in Whitefish Lake here because there isn't 20 feet of water. So it's all relative. That's like I try to explain to people that fish a lake that's maybe say 20 feet deep max or 12 feet deep. You know, not all lakes are deep. And yet, we always think of a drop off as some big thing that goes off, down close to hell. Like the water's getting hotter, not colder as you go deep. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be really deep. It's not. It can be a foot in a shallow lake. Just a drop of a foot make all the difference in the world because it's what they have to use. And then, as you saw, the number of fish that came off that flat going around with a rattle bait and a chatterbait and whatever, those fish were not there in the summer.
Right.
Yeah, you could have caught fish there, but not those numbers.
Right.
Like that first time that I circled that the week before you came, I got 40 or 50 fish.
Yeah, you were saying you absolutely slayed them.
And then I don't know how many we got the day we were, maybe 25, 30?
Yeah, I think it was all me. It was just I was just stirring things up, banging gunnels and yelling and screaming at everybody, ospreys included. That's why the osprey was left. Fish disappeared. No, I'm kidding, Jim. But needless to say, that was going to be my question. Obviously a lake like that, you can depict exactly what James is talking about. But what happens if you get into some of these shallower lakes? Does the same thing hold true? And you just answered that first question.
And you got to remember that map that he was showing you there.
Yep.
That's probably the drive across that lake. That first plateau that he pointed out, the reef area, that's probably the size of 10 whitefish lakes.
Wow.
That's Mille Lacs. That lake is giant. You could have a tournament there with 300 boats and you can't see a boat when you're looking.
Now, I thought Lac Mille Lacs was part of the professional walleye trail. I may be wrong.
They do fish there, yep.
But I thought they were just because of the sheer size of it. And as I said, there are a lot of parallels to tournament angling that, of course, we can talk about because of experiencing the NOWT this weekend. But one thing that I did want to get to that I want to thank Soli's Outdoors for sending is, of course, this, Jim. We saw it last week. You talked about it, the time of year that the year that it should have been. Do you recall this?
No, I can't place that one at all.
Okay.
I I don't even know who that is. Like to my left on the right hand
Yeah.
side of the photo, I don't even know who that is. So it may have been a local official. I'm not sure. Or else I'm just having a senior citizen moment. I don't I can't remember that person, but I know we must have just won something because we're up there alone. There's no baskets or anything, and I got a big grin on my face, and so does Rocky. So we probably just won something. So no complaints with that.
So going on that point, one of the things that I was told and witnessed during the tournament is a gentleman, his bracket fell off for his forward-facing sonar, his Garmin Live, and I was blown away when he went on with the story to say that anglers stepped up. He had lost everything, the graph, all of it.
Yeah.
They stepped up and helped him out with another graph.
Yeah, they have to.
And I was going to ask you, like, is this something that you would hear, back in your day, that you would help somebody that had engine problem? You'd tear apart a trolling motor and.
Oh yeah, and in fact, it's really cool you should mention that. They were talking on the last Elite down here in the St. Lawrence. They were talking about the crews that they have there that support them. Like, Mercury will have a couple of techs there. Some of the boat companies, like probably Ranger or whatever. And when the guy comes in with a Yamaha and is having the problem, the Mercury guy's got his tools and is falling over himself to get to that boat to help the guy if the Yamaha guy isn't around. You know what I mean? It's just, that's the way it works, and that's the way they all support it, because it just makes the whole thing better. When everybody supports everybody else, it just works better, and that's almost one of the secrets to life.
It's just amazing to me because, as I said, I kind of figured there's a competitive nature. There's a lot of money involved, and I understand if someone's broken down out in the water, we are as boaters, we're legally inclined to help out. But in a tournament kind of situation, when your trailing motor's not really working all that well, or your graph fell off, or it's not working, that anglers would still step up in situations like this. And I was blown away. I said that, I don't even know what to say without getting emotional about it, but like that's pretty cool where anglers will do that, even, putting everything aside, all the winnings, this, that, and everything else, just to make sure that they're helping out a fellow angler. I think that is.
We had a day up in Midland in one of the tournaments. It was either in Midland or Penetang, because they used to go back and forth. I'm not sure which one we were in that year, but you've heard me talk of Larry Allard and Jim Kane, two guys from Massachusetts, wonderful anglers. And they're sitting at the blast off, probably 20 minutes to go. They got the cowling off the motor. It won't start. They can't get it to go. It's not going to go. There's something. Everything's just done. It's not going to work, eh? And Rocky and I are there. My truck's sitting in the parking lot with the boat on the trailer. And we went over to him, and I said to him, come here. And I pulled the boats right together. And I took my keys out of my jacket in the lockbox, and I put my keys on the front deck of the boat. And I said, it's right there. Go and get it.
Wow.
We won that day. They came third. So, that was probably going to happen anyway. Well, if they wouldn't have had a boat, you know what I mean? Rocky and I were just on it that weekend. We knew it was going to happen, or we were going to be right there. I think we won by like 6 pounds or something, which is very unusual back in those days. But
wow.
It was pretty well. Hey, speaking of tournaments, they had
who believes in fish gods? Who believes in fish gods? Right there, you got awarded by the fish gods, Jim. That is an incredible story, and it surpasses what I heard this weekend. So, kudos to you, my friend. Anyway, go ahead.
This weekend, all the championships were held. They had the shootout one on the Bay of Quinte.
Yeah.
A couple of young guys won that. They each won a car, which is really cool. It's great, and I think there was some cash and other prizes involved too. But it was funny because they had like a 7-pound lead going to the last day, and they won by like less than a pound or something. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it, but it really got it really tightened up. The two Joeys there won Andy's championship up. I think they had it in Muskoka somewhere. The young lads won, so that's the second one for them this year. Those guys are coming. They're coming. They're young. They have the time. They're making the time. They're doing it right. And then of course Bait Fuel, which used to be Renegade, was down right in Gananoque here in my hometown on the St. Lawrence, and they gave away $100,000.
Jeez.
And it's really funny. They've always done it that they have cash prizes. So the guys that won one for first place, my buddies, Ryan Flaro and Cass, they got $10,000 in cash and some other stuff. And then they do the draw for the Bass Cat boat. So guess who wins the boat in the draw?
No way.
Talk about having a weekend where it just all goes your way.
Wow. Well, I have another story to back that up. Of course, it has nothing to do with bass. As Tony mentioned, we were up at the NOWT. We're going to be talking about that after we're done with Jim, because there is quite a story there, and an incredible amount of stuff was given away, prizes included. There was a mystery weight, Jim. And if you got the mystery weight, if you captured the weekend mystery weight, you were going to walk away with $200,000. No.
So they must have had that insured somehow.
It was insured.
Yeah.
And as we found out, someone came within 0.94 of the mystery weight. Not
so less than a pound.
Less than a pound of the mystery weight. They could have almost walked away. And you talk about things coming together. Well, you'll find out who that was that almost got it and took a lot home. Not to mention they gave up some stuff as well. One of the things too, Jim, I'm sure I don't even have to ask because I already know the answer. When you have a fully outfitted boat, you've got you want for nothing in terms of tackle, gear, electronics. Have you ever picked a kid out of the crowd and said, "Hey, come on up here, I got something for you"?
Oh, I've done that.
Millions.
Probably 75 times in my life.
Yeah.
In fact, I did that, and I wasn't fishing a tournament on Saturday.
Is that right? Right on. Yeah. This was the derby that you were at?
Nope, this is just in my backyard. Guy that's a trainer at my gym brought his little guys down to fish here. You'll recognize the bench, Scotty. So I went up, I got them Kids Cops and Canadian Tire t-shirts, caps, bunch of little spoons and little spinner baits and stuff, and a POW casting rod and reel. I still had some left in those boxes from the kids thing. And there we all are sitting on the bench. You awesome. Recognize that, Doc?
Yep, 100%. Every year, that's where you hold your kids' derby. And
that's my house in the background. You can see it there.
Yep.
Can you see the boathouse? Yeah. No, that's the shed.
Shed's over, to the right.
That's our stupid solar panel tabletop, not making as much money because the wind was blowing. I'm broke now. I need to borrow $50. We didn't make our $50.
Well, Jim, one other thing too I wanted to ask you is when it came to the NOWT, and I mean, angling is angling, and when you're in a tournament, you have no choice. It's go or die. And as we were talking, I got up there. It was 30 plus degrees. The rain started. It fell like the Dickens during the night, and we woke up to a balmy 5 degrees. You couldn't tell that these anglers who are soaked from a couple days of pre-fishing, in some cases they were up there for 3-4 days.
Yep.
They were soaked. It was hot. They were tired, and now they're faced with that kind of temperature change. What goes through your head as an angler other than, what do I do?
Well, because when I did it, I was feeding the family. You have to go 120% instead of 110.
Yeah.
People are 110%. Well, then you have to go even above and beyond. And that's why, that's something that I witnessed on the weekend. I witnessed a lot of people not do good on the first day of a championship and just bail. Just go home. Because they had no chance to win. Like, I mean, if they had Kevin Van Dam and his 10 clones in the boat, they couldn't have won. You know what I mean? They were so far off. I've been there. I've been on both ends of it. But you still got to show up and do it. And I think that's what you see. There's a difference between people that fish on the weekend and the guys that you see that do it for a living.
Yeah.
Especially these guys in the States. People don't realize, like, I was really the first person in Canada that tried to be a tournament fisherman and make my living from it. Because you had Bob Azumi right there, but I mean, they were doing the TV show.
Right.
I didn't have the TV show. And to step out with 3 kids and decide, in a geographically where the season's only 90 days long is what it used to be. We didn't used to have tournaments they got tournaments now in friggin' November.
Right.
Right. And I mean, it used to be once the long weekend came, they had the GM Pro Bass Classic was the championship for Canada basically, and was over and done, and everybody put the fishing rods away because it was wintertime now. They got out the golf clubs for a couple of weeks, and then it was the rifles and off to hunt deer and geese and whatever else, and they forgot about fishing. But now, my Lord, it's a completely different thing. They're just gung-ho at it, eh?
So to answer what I think is the obvious question, is it easier to make a living as a bass tournament angler now or then?
Now.
100%.
Yeah, now. Because it's established now.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's still only a couple. I mean, and even there's nobody doing it in Canada. I mean, the guys that do it, they don't do it in Canada. They do it in the States. The Johnsons, Gussie,
Yep.
Who else? Eric Luzak does a bit, but it's not just the fishing stuff with him. He does lots of other stuff on the side too. But as it comes, you want to talk about being full-time professional tournament fishermen, the support you need. People have no idea the concept of the money that's spent traveling back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, when Gussie fished in Lake St. Clair here, then he left his boat and his truck here and flew home to Kenora and flew back, got it, and went to the same, stuff like this they don't realize. And when they're in Alabama, they fly home.
Wow.
From Alabama. Then they fly back to Alabama. Then they go fish for a week. Then they fly back home, sometimes drive the boat back home. Why? Because they're going to have the 3 weeks off maybe between. And they got a guide for 15 days then, because everybody didn't get lucky and win $500,000 that year.
Right.
Or 400,000 or whatever. I guess Gussie had to be close to 400 last year.
Right.
And but after taxes and everything, that's about $18 Canadian. I mean,
So compare, Jim, if you could compare the beginning of your tournament career to the end of your tournament career, and I know it was only 10, 12 years.
10 years I did it.
10 years.
I lived it. I breathed it. I come hell or high water. If I had to crawl home from Toronto on my hands and knees, I was doing it. People over here say, you drive all the way to Toronto to fish in a fishing tournament?
Yeah.
And it's almost still like that.
Oh, it's worse. You had lads.
Guys don't like to drive. They just want to be. They want them, like, if they have a big lake beside their house and there's enough guys to make a tournament circuit, they just want to fish the same lake 15 times that year. Every weekend we'll have a tournament, same lake.
To think that we had folks down from Southern Ontario as far as London enter into the NOWT, which was, as I said, a half hour out of Timmins. That's a heck of a lot of travel. That's some serious dedication. Of course, you cannot sneeze at the cash that they are spending in order to get there to compete. But again, what I really enjoyed was the camaraderie. Something that I see still in the Elite Series, like you see, all, when it's the top 10, top 5, whatever, they're all congratulating each other, supporting each other, patting each other on the back. But from first place to last place, outside of the fact that they're bringing a little bit of money home, a little bit more hardware, there's no difference. And they're equally as important because they are sacrificing just like the top teams are. Perhaps the top teams are a little bit better outfitted. So again, you don't want to hear that teams after the first day leave because they're frustrated. At the end of the day, you want them there because it's part of the survival of that tournament and tournament trail. So I think what I enjoyed this weekend was seeing all of that support from even the top teams down to the lower teams, but also, of course, the fans and those who came out to watch.
How many teams was it, Scotty? Like 40?
Well, again, this was surprising to me. Here I am thinking that it's their classic. It's their version of the classic where teams qualified from last year to participate in the Walleye Championship. What I was told was there was only 27 teams. Okay. So I thought, that's going to be easy. I'll get to know these 27 teams. Well, there were 105 teams that fished the tournament. Only 27 teams could qualify for the championship or had qualified for the championship and had a chance to win. JB Cycle and Marine had a beautiful Prince craft decked out with a 150 trolling motor, some electronics. That's got a sticker price of probably 80,000 plus. Not to mention the cash prize that they took home that we'll talk about. But Jim, I was amazed. I was absolutely amazed.
Well, when you get those numbers, and you've often heard me say this too, when you get further north, there isn't as much happening, and the people really support what is happening because it's all they've got. You come down in southern Ontario, eastern Ontario here, there's 10 tournaments every weekend from different things. It's just like a madhouse. And you just split it all up. I mean, they got lots of guys.
Yeah.
And like a lot of them are close to full and are full and whatever else. But up north, they don't have as many things to do, so they get behind it. Is that community thing? And when I say community, I'm not talking about a little town. I'm talking about the area.
Yeah.
They don't have much to do, so they all jump in,
And that's exactly it. That's exactly, you described it to a T. That's exactly, and as I said, one of the things that I got tasked, and I hope that we're going to be able to do, is bring a little bit of notoriety about the Northern Ontario Walleye Trail south of Sudbury, because I feel as if anywhere south of Sudbury, nobody knows what the NOWT is. And it's such a shame, because there's an awful lot of great sticks up there, some great tournament organizers, some incredible sponsors.
Because I always used to go up when they used to have at Sagamok there. They had the Fall Challenge. It was the NOWT. I went to that for, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And they had that. I was there. It was always a great time. Guys caught a bunch of fish. They always fished in the same place. They fished in the river there. It's what it is. But and there's a lot of fish in that river too. The guys catch a lot of fish, but that river can be mean.
It can be, absolutely. It can be, and unforgiving, as we saw for some anglers. Jim, I know you got to get going, so we'll quickly ask you, what have you got coming this week? Obviously, you're working on the magazine.
Yeah, I'm working on the magazine. Spent a good bit of time down at the gym. What have I got? I got something to do Friday. I don't know. I don't even remember. I've got notes all over the place. I better get them all in one place. The book for this month started to look like the old books when I showed that time when we got the old books and looked through them. And when that happens now, boy, I need the book to have it all up here. It ain't all there anymore.
Right on. Well, Jim, you good luck. Jeremy wants to know, is this the reason why all the crappie are out front of your cottage? Because everything seems to be pointed towards the lake and flowing towards the lake? Is that
no, actually, my septic pumps up right beside the garage here.
Oh, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. All
what?
Good.
You tried to joke on me? Where's my bat?
Well, before we get swung at, Jim, bid you farewell for the week. Dude, you're an awesome guy, very supportive. I really appreciate you reaching out throughout the weekend, asking how things were, asking how I was. Meant a lot, dude. Well,
a little way away from home at the big fishing tournament. I had to check out on my brother.
Well, dude, as I said, and I totally understand why you do it, why Moose does it, and especially our good buddy Dave Mercer. It is such a rush to be up there on stage, talking to the anglers, feeding the crowd. It's so engaging, and it was definitely the highlight.
It's like some of the best times I've ever had, and some of the things that people I get notes from guys that don't even fish anymore. I get a note from a guy the other day. He says to me, I was thinking back. He says, when I almost won the Renegade Classic. I said, yeah. And he said, I still remember it was at the end, and I sort of lost it. I was behind the thing. I was crying. I didn't know what to do. He thought he was going to win a boat. He didn't. He missed by like 12 ounces or something. And he says, you came right off the stage. You said, folks, we'll be right back with the presentation. And you followed me off. And he said, I turned around and you gave me a big hug. I said, I remember that. I said, I remember it plain as day, because I've been there. I had things like that happen, and I knew that would make you feel better. Wow. And it's things, things like that. There's so many. It's just too easy to do. I mean, some of the photos that I have from being on the stage with the Zoomy, the one where he's telling me about how big the waves were, telling me the two pictures, and I'm sitting there looking at them like the person that captured those photos. I'll find them and we'll look at them next week. He still talks about that, how that happened. When you hear the story of those photos, what's happening? That's just awesome. It's really cool.
Fantastic stuff.
What it is, guys. Enjoy yourself out there.
Good luck with your tailpipe.
Hey, and you and I, that's going to heat up out here shortly.
Can't wait. Can't wait, buddy.
You'll have to come down.
Can't wait, my friend. All the best.
Hey, guys.
Enjoy your week.
Be good.
Peace. So, yes, as we were talking, what an incredible event this past weekend was. I can't say enough about it. It was a thrill, definitely a thrill of mine. And I'm really looking forward to perhaps getting back up there and doing a little bit more, because the NOWT is got a soft spot in my heart. I've always been a follower of it, especially when they would cross over into PWT. But to see the level of anglership, the level of skill, the amount of money that is invested by the anglers in boats, electronics, but also there was a soft side. And to a lot of folks that are watching here tonight, what I thought was really cool was you had pontoon boats, you had tinners, literally boats that somebody probably had 40 years, from a 25 horse all the way up to a 400 horse. Everybody and everyone had that opportunity to participate. Did they do well? In some cases, yes. I will say this: forward-facing sonar, hands down, was the ticket, and it ignites that debate about forward-facing sonar. Is there a future for it? Is it going to deter folks from wanting to compete? There's all these debates going out there, and I'll tell you, all that happened this weekend was to further that debate. But I don't want to take away from the positivity of that tournament. So let's get right into it real quick. I just want to go over, this is day one. This was the recap of day one. As I said, just a phenomenal tournament. Great experience. Great to see. I haven't seen it in years. And as I said, it was our job to try and bring notoriety to the NOWT further south than Sudbury. So, of course, teams show up. This is on the grounds of Matagami First Nations. These are the boats that are coming in. Talk about a well-oiled machine. You know, big shout out to Jess and Christelle and all of our volunteers that helped immensely make this happen, because 105 boats got launched, and there's only one launch. So not only do they get launched, but they also get retrieved after they weigh in their fish. Both days, both starts, we had a fog delay for the safety of the anglers and, of course, the cottagers who live on the lake. They delayed the start. Now, day one wasn't nearly as bad as day two, which we'll get to in a sec, but that's what 105 boats look like waiting for a start. And they were in there for 2 hours. In there waiting for 2 hours, as I said, fog delay. This eventually lifted. The wind started to pick up, so it pushed everything. And there you are. There's the blast off. And as you can see, there is a wide variety of boats. You had Princecrafts. You had Lunds, you had Peterboroughs, you had Crestliners, you had a lot, Nitros. There was a whole bunch of different boats, Rangers, you name it, it was there. But what it really showed was it didn't necessarily matter what you were driving in terms of how you participated. It didn't rule out the possibility of you being able to fish this tournament. Now, again, this is the elite. This is their classic. They have this fall classic every year in Matagami. This was the last fall event that they were going to have. So they wanted to go out with a big bang. They asked me to come. I was absolutely honored to be a part of it. But after seeing it that weekend, it was an honor to be involved. And I want to get to a lot of what happened. Again, to go over, so that was the blast off, as you can see. This is what they were giving away, which I was just absolutely blown away with. So top prize in the fall walleye classic was 20,000. Second was 10. Third 5. As you can see, it goes down and down and down. Not to mention those who were competing for the championship had a chance to take home a brand new Princecraft. So there is a lot of money. They figure with just the prizes and the cash, you're looking at over $150,000 that's available. So it is a bit of a trek for anglers down here to get to, but needless to say, the NOWT and MFN fishing made it worth your while. So that was day one. Here is the day two recap. I'm going to get to some videos too of the weigh-in, because you talk about suspense. Oh my good Lord, it was incredible suspense. So as you can see, the fog was a lot thicker in day two. Again, testament to all of the volunteers keeping the spirits up of the anglers. The anglers did themselves, because all you could hear in the fog was music. Everybody had their stereo going. So it was like summer camp for some. But, you know, as I said, there was the eventual trickle start. They take off, and there were some great people to meet, too, that we have featured here on Facebook and CFN. the Jodys, the Kit Porteous, Martel. There's a whole whack of guys that I know I'm probably forgetting. Frank Clark, great to meet Frank Clark. We saw Craig, we saw Cameron Racine, we saw the president, Shane Turcotte, and of course his entire family, Lua and Tyler, who helped out immensely. And Team TP, I got a big shout out to Team TP. That's where they weighed in all of their fish. It was a unique situation for anglers to jump into a TP that had the weigh, had the display. They captured their paper slip. They were able to walk out, and it was all done like they've been doing it for years. And some of them have, like Chantel, I think, has been doing it for 25 plus years, almost from its inception. She has been the weight girl, or has at least helped out, and then has eventually become the lady that everybody respects when it comes to weighing the fish. No issues. We had one team, unfortunately, that got disqualified. I want to take this opportunity to say to them, you guys took it really, really well. That kind of level of professionalism that you showed when it all went down, kudos to you. It was unfortunately an awkward situation that was dealt with not only by the volunteers, but also by the anglers really, really well. So much so that those same anglers are going to be back. So you'd think they'd have a bad taste in their mouth. Nope, they're coming back. So great to hear that. And it's, again, great to see. But here is the weigh-in. This is the exciting part. This is what I really want to get to because, as I said, I can't thank enough for being asked by Christelle to go up there. Big shout-out to Paul H.A., of course, Jeff, Ray, and Sebastian, who put me up at Paul H.A.'s camp. I wanted for nothing the whole weekend. They were fantastic hosts, and a big shout-out to them. But this is the final weigh-in. Have a look at this, because this is really incredible. So they backed all the boats in.
It's either really tiny.
So let me before I go on, let me try to build the suspense a little. Let me try to build the suspense. So the top 5 were the most important after day one, in the sense that they would be following what they did. And these are their top 5 anglers. There was 27 extremely good anglers, 27 incredible teams that competed for this. To see these totals after day one, keep in mind, we went from 30 degrees to opening day, which was 5. And they look at the weights. Look at the weights. This is up north, folks. This is like just outside of Timmins. Look at the weights. So this is team 1. Steve Gravel and Kevin Robino voted the most sportsmanlike team in the trail, and you'll understand a little bit more of that very soon. Jason Doyen and Nick Huxon, again, just right on their heels. You had Luke and Kyle, you had Jesse and Francis, Robert and Frank Clark, who were on the heels of everyone. Again, you pull out a big fish because you're allowed 8 fish, actually. You're allowed to bring 8 fish to the dock, but to weigh in, you are only allowed 6 because you have 2 anglers. So they're trying to deplete the pressure on the fish. You can have 2 overs, 4 unders, or you can have 6 unders, or 1 over, 5 unders. Regardless, it's a combination of 6 fish, and that's what we saw after day 1. This is what happened at the end of day 2, which was absolutely. Well, this is the last. Steve Gravel and Kevin Robino. Everybody's got their back to the fans. The audience doesn't know what's going on. What they have pulled out is
I'm loving it. This is awesome.
And I don't know what's going on. Nobody really knows what's going on.
I know I'm supposed to be
All of a sudden,
I'm supposed to keep, but I can't. They didn't lose it, did they? Did they lose it in there? I don't know. Is it in the oil reservoir now? That was a remarkable day 1 that you two had. This could be a remarkable day 2. And as you just mentioned, that could be the best I've seen or anybody has seen out of this lake in 2 days of fishing. All right, big fish, big fish. 8.69 pounds. Holy Barnucz what a decent fish that is. Good job.
We are looking for 8.51 pounds. With what those 5 fish, we are looking for 8.51.
Okay, so let me set the scene. They have just weighed the big fish of the day, and it ended up being the big fish of the weekend. So now they have 5 other fish that they can weigh in. And as Andre, my beloved co-host and co-MC, said, they only needed, as I said, 8 point whatever pounds. 8 point whatever pounds in the remaining 5 fish. They needed to have that in order to surpass Jason and Nick. And I'll let it be. I'll let it play.
All right, Chantal, it's on you. You know what to do. Throw the fish in the bucket. Let's see what we got. 13.8 pounds. And your champion, Kevin Romano and Steve Duval.
The suspense was incredible. We were actually playing with numbers. There were certain things that we were doing behind the scenes to sort of build the suspense. I have a feeling that there may have been an inkling that people may have known that Steve and Kevin had done as well as they did. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But I didn't know. I'm up on stage. I had no idea what they had in the live well, and 90% of the people in the stands had no clue either. But they pulled out a bag and pulled out the win. And I will say this, unofficially, they have surpassed a day 2 NOWT tournament trail record for a 2-day tournament, bringing in 44 pounds of fish. Yes, that is correct. Sorry, just under 44, 43.49 pounds. 2-day tournament. They surpassed their day 1 weight of 21 and brought in 22.49 pounds. Jason and Nick thought they had it. They thought they had it. With 19.36, they surpassed what they did in day 1. But as soon as they saw those 2 fish get pulled out, Jay and Nick kind of knew. They just kind of knew. And I will say this, it was absolutely awesome to see the interaction with the anglers. Because once it was announced that Steve and Kevin won, all of the anglers went over to thank them. They were pouring beer on them. They were pouring water on them. It was really cool. And as I said, you had to be there to really get to know the true experience or feel the true experience. But it was just I was in awe. I was speechless through it all. Just to sit back and witness what was the final stop of the NOWT. It is the Fall Walleye Classic. It was at Matagami. Next year, it's on the St. Mary's River in Sault Ste. Marie. We're hoping I'm going to be there. I am really looking forward to being there. But needless to say, it was an all-around fantastic tournament. I am probably forgetting a whole host of people. Jess, I want to thank Jess Naveau for helping me out with the recaps. Of course, Larry and Kelly for hosting at the arena. All the food, the steak dinners, the pasta bars, you went for nothing. And the whole time they're building community. They had bouncy castles for the kids. They had a foam party for the kids. They did a lot of stuff for the kids. So if you are a family that is not sure if you want to travel to a tournament like this, please, I'm going to tell you, it's in your best interest to not pass up an opportunity, because the folks who run these tournaments put on a full show. Now, again, I cannot say this enough. Kevin Robineau and Steve Gravel voted the most sportsmanlike anglers of the trail. Here's a good reason why.
Big fish.
Okay, so we've already seen this. The big fish.
8.69 pounds.
So here's what happened. They win a Garmin scope as well as $500 cash. They decided Tanner, who was this young angler who was competing in the NOWT, he was competing in this tournament with his dad. Kevin and Steve, they took a loving to this kid, a shine to this kid, as we all did. And Tanner is the young boy's name. Tanner went home not only as the best young angler with this big, huge remote control car that was donated. And you should have seen the look on his face when he received that car. But when he received the Garmin and the money, the car was left behind, and he walked off the stage, and he's like, "Dad, we need to put this on the boat right away." Anyway, absolutely incredible. A great storyline. I can't thank the NOWT enough, and everybody that was involved, all of the volunteers. There were so many great stories. Another great story was the organizers that were at the recovery pond. If they were having issues with certain fish that perhaps maybe didn't look like they were going to make it, they were starting to go a little bit belly up, they would recruit them in this pond, in this man-made tub, if you will. And there was a fish in there that Steve had caught, Kevin caught first day, and it was having a little bit of issue. They decided to keep it in the recovery pond overnight, kept the water running. And the beautiful thing is Tyler, and I was telling Tyler Turcotte this, it was a real special moment for me, and it was captured on video, and I didn't have enough time to upload it, so I really apologize. But anybody who wants to go back and see the release of that fish, it was extra awesome to see those big fish released. A lot of people are concerned about the stress and the pressure that's put on these fish. I can assure you, anything and everything was done to ensure the safe health and safe release of these fish. So kudos to the NOWT. Kudos again to Steve and Kevin for winning, and all of the anglers, because the most important anglers are not necessarily the ones that won. Those who continue to come, participate, have a positive outlook. Like Jim talked about, the first day you don't do very well, you can pull your card and check out. Nobody did that. They stuck around because they wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to see it till the end. And I totally understand why. So that's it for the NOWT. Really appreciate you guys listening to that. Again, I can't say it enough to all those who I saw up there, to all those who have messaged me since the tournament. Thank you. I will get to them, and I apologize. Please be patient. As I said, it's busy times, but yeah, very cool. So last but not least, Moose is going to be on here to talk about, of course, the OFC Nation retreat that's coming up. I can't say enough about folks. It's last minute. Like, you've got a week basically to get ready. If you're looking to put your butt in a bed, this is the time. There is no time to delay. You got to get it done. Please make sure you reach out to Tracy and Andre to get it done, because we don't want to miss anybody. And I hate hearing that we have this event and everybody's, oh, I didn't know about it. Well, I don't know what else we can do to help promote it, but if you can give Andre and or Tracy a call, and we'll see you up there. We're going to have a fantastic time. It will be exactly what it was last year. On that note, we got Lawrence Gunther coming up next, right after a word from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Okay, I don't know where Lawrence is. We just got to get him to click on. You know what we'll do? Let's bring in Moose.
Yeah, I appreciate
it. Moose!
I was hoping that he did. I wasn't sure.
Moose?
Yeah. No, it all worked out pretty good.
Moose?
He's a super good guy, man. I don't think he does a lot of that.
Moose is on the phone. Lawrence is backstage. Jay, you know what? Let's do this in honor, because Jay has been paying attention. Let's have a word from his sponsor.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
Absolutely. Jay, as always, you're always on the ball, dude.
Dude, it's CFN Monday Madness is what's going on. It's crazy out there. It's mayhem. Monday mayhem at CFN.
Wow. Absolutely. And I see you're on the road again yourself, so obviously things aren't in order for you, and you know what they usually are, where you're in the basement in your studio. Where are you right now?
I'm in Windsor right now. So I was in Kincardine, Walkerton last week, Collingwood on Saturday, Long Point for the Children's Hospital event or Turkey Point on Sunday, volunteering. And then I'm in Windsor now, Windsor for a week. And then I'm heading to the Bay of Quinte next week for work. So I'm all over the place, man, all over.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit of snippet of what it is you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So last week I was on the Saugeen doing some mapping of the river. So I honestly, I haven't held a fish in a few weeks. We're doing all these habitat surveys. The Saugeen last week, I basically floated a canoe from Walkerton to Denny's Dam, which is about 75 or 80 kilometers. And beside the canoe, we dragged this little device, like a little raft, and it sends a sonar beam down, similar to what we do with our fish finders. But what it does, Scotty, is it measures the depth and velocity. So if I say to you, the pixels on a screen, right? So this unit, if I send down, if it makes a picture, every pixel on that screen has depth and velocity values. So the software on that machine then takes that and calculates a discharge value. So what it allows us to do, Scotty, is we take this depth and velocity layer of the Saugeen River, we overlay all of our fish sampling points on there, and let's say we want to catch now, I work with endangered fish, right? But we also catch smallmouth bass, Chinook salmon, whatever the Saugeen has, we catch. So we can overlay all of our points. And so instead of you and I going to a site and measuring the depth and velocity at a site, we might say, okay, well, smallmouth bass at our sites, the sites where we caught smallmouth bass have X depth, X velocity. But we can only sample one point, right?
Yeah.
By floating the whole river, I know where all the depths and velocities are. So I can say, here's all the habitat that's suitable for smallmouth bass. Here's all the habitat that's suitable for Chinook salmon. Here's all the habitat suitable for common shiner, whatever species you want. So it's a macro scale survey. So but we can't survey all of that habitat for fish, but if we know the habitat, we can make those extrapolations basically.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blown away. And is this new technology or is it just being used?
No. So here's what's interesting though. So the technology that we're using is actually designed for civil engineers. So the civil engineers in the world will take the acoustic Doppler profiler and you'll see it where and you might see this in urban areas. Every time there's a high rain event, you'll see like the conservation authority staff and usually the engineering staff, not the biologists, ecologists. They're going to measure those flows, right, at those high storm events because we want to know, can our human infrastructure sustain such crazy events, right? That's why we have these. That's why we have restrictions on buildings and things like that, where we understand this is the velocity, these are the thresholds. So this is the technology that we're using now in fisheries. We're taking this information or this technology from the engineering world, and we're applying it to fisheries where we're saying, okay, I want to know, like, for example, the Saugeen River, the Grand River, the Thames River, where we do a lot of work in the south. I can't wade across that river to figure out what the depth and velocity is. It's over my head, most of it. Like I would drown.
Right.
So by floating it and getting all those depth and velocity readings, we can get that across the whole channel if we want to in certain areas. And then we just extrapolate that back to what our fish like from the few fish sites that we have. So, George, I know fish swim. They have tails. I get it. It's an imperfect design, George. I understand. But we are doing the best. There's a joke I told today in the boat, which doesn't always go over well. But some people will say to me, Scotty, rocket scientists, like they're the smartest ones. They're not. Fishery scientists are. Do you know why that is, Scotty? Do you know why that is?
Well, because they have to adapt. Like not everything's written in a book. Like sometimes
Well, exactly. If I want to launch a rocket to the moon, so I'm going to load my buddy George Morgan into the space shuttle and fire him off to Mars. Okay, I know I can calculate how much fuel I need, how much oxygen I need, what is the trajectory, what is the pull of gravity. I can calculate all that. With fish, we're just raccooning around trying to find our way through things. Like rocket scientists have it easy, man. It's fish scientists have it way tougher than rocket scientists.
Speaking of that, we have questions already. Ed is asking, is there still Skamania? Is there still a Skamania?
No, so good question, Ed. Like I'm not too involved in salmonid studies in Ontario, but I actually have talked to some friends about this recently because we still see fish with that sort of elongated caudal peduncle that the Skamania used to have. Like, so when Skamania were bred and they were released, you'd get these summer run steelhead that were basically Skamanias, and they would have this really robust caudal peduncle. So what that is, for folks not listening, that's the area from the anal fin to the caudal fin, and it would be really thick. And what it did was these fish would be quite acrobatic, actually, and quite hard fighters. But what's happened is since the 80s and 90s, when those fish were around, I believe, and I've talked to a couple of my salmonid brothers, and they said to me that the Skamania genes are still out there, but because we haven't been breeding them, they've kind of been bred out of the population. Does that make sense, Scotty? Like they're still out, the genes are still out there, but we're not making those pure Skamania like we were back in the 80s and early 90s.
Interesting. Well, you know what? It's really cool. Everything you do is cool, Jay, but that sounds exceptionally cool what you're doing right now. I did want to bring to your attention, which I'm sure you saw, a grass carp was caught recently by an angler. They did some tests, found out that it was sterile. But what does that say? Obviously we need to be concerned. We need to be aware. I think it's awesome that we have anglers that are able to identify that it was a concerned species. Whether they knew exactly what it was or not doesn't matter. But they thought enough to call those in the know to find out how important it was to report that fish. As they did a little bit of research, found out it was sterile. What's going on? We see.
So I'm going to give a shout out. And this is not a professional shout out. This is an angler to angler shout out to Dennis Fries. Dennis is the angler who found that grass carp in Upper Niagara. He was out fishing. He actually owns a guide service on the Upper Niagara River in Lake Erie. Great guy. Dennis was out fishing, noticed this grass carp on the surface. This is what I heard. I haven't talked to Dennis yet, but I was reading an article about it. He saw the grass carp, knew it was a grass carp, and netted it. Like, so he actually took it on his own. It wasn't by accident. He just, there it is. I'm going to net this thing, and reported it to the Invasive Species Center and did all the right things. Scotty, these things are around, and I think we're going to see grass carp showing up periodically from time to time. That one was caught in Bay of Quinte this year from a commercial angler. I'm not aware of any that have been caught through the monitoring programs. There are monitoring programs set up to look for them, and those crews are out looking for any invasive species, to be honest, not just grass carp, but they haven't been seeing much of anything. And so I think that, good point, Curtis, where there's one, there are hundreds. That's typically what we find in fisheries. Like, if you find one, there's a lot more. That's kind of the sad news. But what's great, though, Scotty, is just seeing how not just agencies, but anglers are being vigilant. That makes me happier, because anglers are the ones with their, I say feet on the ground, but their feet in the water, right? And they're the ones who are the stewards of the resource. And having anglers out there and being observant, like Dennis, that's great. I love hearing that.
100%. And when it comes to fish identification, it's not easy to do. Even for some of us who have been at it for a while, we do screw up. And sometimes different colors, there's a different characteristic of the fish from water body to water body. Still the same species. It could be a subspecies based on the water body, but regardless, being vigilant in how you can identify and what you know about species of fish certainly makes us all more educated, and situations like we just described are going to happen.
I want to jump into a question here from my buddy Jay Pierce. He thought Skamanias were only a Michigan thing. No, I believe, and don't quote me on this, Jay, but I believe they were actually bred in Normandale for a while back in the 80s and 90s, which is a hatchery down right near me in Norfolk. And I believe they were released into the Saugeen River for a while. Now, the Michigan program had Skamanias for a lot longer than we had here. they might still have a program there. I don't think so, but they might. But no, they're not just a Michigan thing. There was a push to have them in the Lake Huron tributaries as well, and I believe it was in the Saugeen River. And I see another. Oh, I have to cite George Morgan here. I'm concerned when you mention engineering as helping fisheries. George, I think what you want to say is that it's about time the engineers are helping the fish. Is that what you're trying to say, George? Like, that's really, we're just going to spin that around and make sure that the engineers are helping the fish as opposed to engineering.
Well, I'm glad you interpreted it that way, and you have the ability to do so, because I wouldn't dare. I just put my foot in my mouth if I did that.
Yeah, Scotty, one of my jobs, I won't say the place I worked at for a couple years, but I worked a job once, and I walked into the lunchroom my first day, and I was the new fish biologist, and I was sitting at a table. I didn't know who was at the table. There was about 4 or 5 other guys there, and they said, do you like, hey, new guy, Jay, do you like golf? And I'm like, well, there's only 2 types of people in this world. There's golfers and anglers, and I'm not a golfer. That was pretty much the entire engineering department, and they were all golfers. So pretty much I didn't invite golfing at that job that I had. So
very, very cool. So are you at this for the week? Is it a 2-week project? How long are you going to be doing this?
We've had a crew down here off and on for the past few weeks. We're actually here finishing up this one, which is great. This is the time of year. September is usually the time of year where we're wrapping stuff up. Dude, even last week, dude, I was dodging lightning bolts. And I am nowhere like Thor, the god of thunder, man. I try to be. I don't have the locks for it, but dude, when you're floating down the Saugeen River and they tell you to take shelter, that's, we follow the OSH program. But when you're just in the Saugeen River and there's just thunder around you, you're like, where do I go? Right? It got a little dicey last week, but we're really working on finishing up our projects right now. And got a couple that we got to start up soon, but we'll probably be busy until Halloween. That's what I predict. We'll be out basically until they see a bit of snow on the ground. We'll be out going.
Jay just mentioned, yes, we have heard of the show Fins and Skins.
Oh yeah, Fins and Skins. Yeah.
Definitely not something that I myself would participate in, but Jay, you probably have a better chance than I would.
And Jay Pierce, you and I have a date this fall because I need to pick your brain about channel cats, but we're going to have another story about that. So Jay Pierce, you and I are going to talk, not tonight, but we're going to talk soon.
That's awesome, dude. Now you made a post, I think it was maybe last week or the week before, just acknowledging all of the volunteer help that has gone on with you and your crew this past summer. Yeah. Now,
we've been lucky enough, Scotty. We've had a couple of calls this year with Jade Parker, who was one of our students, who's the daughter of our good friend Mike and Donna. And I love our students, man. They work darn hard. And we actually lost a lot of students because of COVID, right? So we used to recruit students. So every year we'd get a couple new ones. We'd have a couple come back. And this was one of our first years where we had all new students. It was a tough go. And we need to, it was great just to have such a great bunch. So shout out to Jade and Lauren and Shane. And I feel like I'm in Romper Room. They won't even get that reference, but I get that reference. So, because no one ever said my name in Romper Room. But anyways, a shout out to all the great students. And, I'm not going to say I don't miss them. I kind of enjoy the peace. I'm an old guy, man. All the Gen Zers are all talking in my ear all the time, using new terms that I don't understand. But I really, really am thankful for their help. And it was great having, the new generation of fisheries technologists and biologists on the boat with me. That was great.
That's awesome. And I will say, is it harder to get kids involved in fishing, or is it harder to get them volunteering to help with fish?
It's a good question. So it really depends on. I don't have a problem with it, but I network differently than most people. I'm very in touch with colleges and universities. I make it a point. Even I'm giving some lectures this fall to a couple of high school classes, actually, like environmental science and environmental studies classes that have reached out to me. Kudos to CFN and social media for giving me an outlet, and it's given me a chance to meet up with people. And one positive of COVID, Scotty, is I don't have to travel now to a classroom. I can do this virtually. It's not as good as being in person, But if I have to get approval to do a presentation, hands down, I can do it during a Zoom call versus doing it in person. So, it's great. I just have great help and great assistance. And honestly, the biggest hurdle that I have, Scotty, for getting volunteers is insurance liability. That's the biggest thing, is I can't have one help me all the time. So I encourage young people to join groups like Trout Unlimited and OFAH to get that insurance so they can volunteer and do fisheries work, not just with us, but with other organizations too.
100%.
Yeah.
You would have appreciated the tournament that I was at this past weekend, Jay. It had a full flotilla and conglomerate of all kinds of different boats.
Yeah.
Again, we can't beat the dead horse enough because it's something that's going to be talked about, I'm sure, for a while yet. A lot of folks were pointing at forward-facing sonar being the new thing, that you kind of need this in order to be competitive and a chance to win. What I did see, though, was, again, a wide variety of boats, which allows all anglers to be accessible and participate no matter, what's at stake. But a lot of folks were suggesting that we either ban it or we create two separate divisions. This makes it very, very difficult for the organizers. It'll deplete the winnings. If you're starting to cut up that pie, there's only so much you can play with. I don't have the answer, and I don't think anybody else does at this point. But again, it just it rang true in a lot of the anglers.
It's tough, man. I won't lie to you. I was driving to Windsor today. I had 3 hours of windshield time from Burlington, and I'm letting my podcast just play, and I listened to the podcast, and I got onto a forward-facing sonar podcast, and I got tired of the complaining. I'll use proper nice grammar here.
Mm-hmm.
Got tired of the complaining, and I had to find another episode. Like I'm a little tired of not hearing about forward-facing sonar, but I think the impacts are not as great. I think we need to be aware of there could be negative impacts, especially with, we talked about this on last week's show, which was a great show. If no one saw last week's show, I've gone back and listened to it again. It's a great show and lots of great content about forward-facing sonar. And I really think that some of the fisheries out there, like crappie fisheries in the U.S., and especially in the U.S. where there's way more fishing pressure than we have in Ontario, I think this all has to be, it's relative to where you live and what kind of fisheries that you have. We are spoiled in Ontario, spoiled with our fisheries, Canada in general. And I think that we won't have as many problems because we have better fisheries overall, and we have less people overall. So don't let the forward-facing sonar media influence you too much, because we are an outlier from what we're seeing in the U.S. But it's an interesting technology that we have to be aware of. And I think that I'm glad that people are talking about it, though, Scotty, because I think it's good to talk about it, but we need information to really drive it home about, and that'll take years to see what the impacts are. So
100%.
I see a couple of quick comments here. So Brian Sturch, so does OFH cover them? No. So here's my recommendation. If you have high schoolers or college students, and they are, so when the students work for me, they're covered by us, by our insurance, because they're staff members. We hire them through called the Federal Student Work Experience Program. Alicia's point's a very good one, though. And I do this with my family. So we have OFAH insurance. If I want to do volunteer work, like down at the Fish Ladder in Delhi and stuff, my whole family's covered liability insurance through OFAH. And if we want to run an event, so local fishing clubs, you want to run an event, you have liability insurance. If you want to do like anything, like a stream rehab project, you want to get involved with even you want to rent a room sometimes. Like if I want to rent a facility, I have to get an insurance waiver, right, Scotty? You know what I'm talking about, right? So I want to rent a hall to hold a seminar.
Yep.
I need to get an insurance waiver, and I get that through OFAH because I'm a member. So it's really helpful to get those to get that insurance with OFAH. And also, if you're a Trout Unlimited member, they also have a similar for doing their work days too.
Interesting. And here, Curtis has just put up link here. Great for those who want to perhaps get involved, help out, and do a little bit of what Jay's talking about.
So a shout out to Curtis. He used to work for me as a federal student work experience program. He was an F-SWEPper from way back, and he's working as a technician now for Fisheries and Oceans Canada. And so he's a disciple of the program. He followed me around for a long time, and now he's running his own show as a senior technician for one of our scientists. So shout out to Curtis. I never knew about the federal student work program when I was in high school and college and university. So if you know anyone that in that sort of college university age and they're looking for, it's not just Fisheries and Oceans, it's any federal agency. So Parks Canada, Environment Canada, Coast Guard, all hire through the federal student work program. So if you know anyone looking for a job, that's who you look for federally anyways.
Awesome. Well, now that I know that all of these folks in the know are with us, like we got George, we got you, we got Curtis Smith, we're really going to have to up our game. We're going to have to become more knowledgeable than we currently are in order to talk professionally about some of these subjects. But it's great having folks like you, Jay, like Curtis, like George in our background, in our audience, steering some of the conversations that do know, have done the research, have volunteered their time, have stuck it out in days that it was rainy, days that it was cold, doing creel samples, setting nets, pulling nets, doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we would only know about the bodies of water that we fish. And listening to KVD last week, talking about forward-facing sonar, what he thought he knew in all those years of bass fishing, he had to rewrite the script after he saw forward-facing sonar. So it's good to have a good base of knowledge.
Yeah,
and then use the tools that you have before you to make it even better. But as I said, thanks to all of you folks who have done all that kind of work, and it is grueling work. Just like
I'll be honest, I'll put it out there, and this may not be favorable to a lot of people, but there's not enough anglers working in agencies anymore, and a lot of the real good staffers out there have connections to the angling community. That's what I honestly feel, and they make a big difference every day. They really do.
One of the things too, Jay, that I saw this weekend was, again, what I talked to Jim about, an angler that had lost his graph, his mount, everything fell off. He forgot it was in the water, and it ripped anything out of the boat. There was an angler that stepped up and said, "Don't worry, dude, I'll help you out." It's nice to see that kind of teamwork, that kind of camaraderie and sportsmanship. Is it something that we're seeing a lot more? Like when you have Owen and Trevor in these kayak tournaments, do you see that kind of support even at that grassroots level, all the way up into the higher ranks? Have you seen it yourself?
So the kayak one is funny, and it's changing because it's growing. But get this though, because kayak fishing is done online, Scotty, there's not always a gathering before or after the event, which is kind of disappointing because I don't care whether I do really well or I ride the suck bus all day. I love sitting down with a friend and talking fishing at the end of the day. I really love it. Like, that's part of it. And if you go to a weekend tournament, the Friday night meetup, have a beer, have a meal, talk fishing, that doesn't happen a lot with kayak tournaments. Unfortunately, it's the nature of them. It's like, it's done in isolation. So that needs to change a little bit. Like, to me, I'm being selfish, but I think it should change. And I want to give a quick shout out to Brad Thompson, who runs the Turkey. He's the general manager for Turkey Point Marina. We had his children's hospital tournament this past Sunday, yesterday. We don't have he hasn't done his Facebook post yet, but I'll share it to my page. He raises anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 a year for London Children's Hospital, and a good chunk of that comes out of that tournament. And I just want to say to Brad, even though that event is so important, Owen and Trevor were there helping us yesterday with the live release for Long Point Bay anglers. I had Owen on stage with me, helping me in sort fish, which is, if anyone comes to that event, having an extra set of hands when you're weighing for big fish. You got 2 bags going in a trough. I know Alicia and TJ have seen it firsthand. During that show, and it's busy, in the middle of it, Brad Thompson stopped, called Owen over, and talked up Owen's recent accomplishments about going to Oklahoma, and that, Owen's the future and Trevor is the future. Like, in the middle of the busiest tournament that we've had in a while, Brad stopped the bus and gave a big shout out to youth angling. And I was moved. And I expect that from Brad in a way, because that's how Brad is. But to hear it was pretty cool, man. And I just want to give a shout out to Brad for doing that. That was just really cool yesterday. And I have big plans for Owen this winter. I'm not only his coach now, I'm also his agent apparently. So we got big things happening.
Well, you know what? He's destined for success if that's the case. But yeah, to your point, Jay, you can never underestimate, and it doesn't matter if you're the Brian Sturches, the Alicias, the George Morgans, Jay Pierces, Corey's. It doesn't matter who you are. Never underestimate taking the time to acknowledge a young angler who is trying. I had the pleasure and honor of working with this young kid, Jack, out on the docks, and he was so focused, so in tune, that it was very important that I know the next boat, because we were trying to keep pace and get all these 105 boats in and weighed in. And it's not easy when you got 8 fish in your live well. You have to pick 6 to then weigh in. It takes time, and it needs to be a well-oiled machine. And young Jack, big shout out to you if you're listening. As I said, he's going to be the next me. He was boisterous. He would get everybody in order, and he was, about this big. So very cool.
And I agree, man. Like yesterday, we had 30, just over 30 teams. We weighed 30 teams in under 30 minutes on the stage. No, that's not right. 40 minutes, 30 teams is what we did. And that was pictures, and that was the little 1-minute interview. And a lot of it's because of Owen and Trevor are probably the best pit crew I got going down there doing those live release tournaments. I'm serious. It was fantastic. And they're helping John launch the boat, like the big live release boat. They go on the boat. Dude, I don't even go on the boat anymore. They let the fish go. I'm backstage rolling up extension cords. I'm that guy now. It's so cool to have, and I want more young people to come out and do this. And I think the word not enough know about it. And this isn't just what we're doing in Turkey Point. All across Ontario and Canada, there's events just like you're talking about. Your buddy Jack. We need to get more young anglers out, not just fishing, but be part of a movement at these events. I think I saw that this weekend, and Scotty, your story about Jack there, that hits home with me big time, because not only will we, we're in a downward trend here in angling participation, but you know what? It's not just fishing rods in hands anymore to me. It's getting fish into people's hands and engaging them, whether it be at a bass tournament or at a stream project, something. We got to get them more involved.
Again, Tyler Turcotte, Milan Lizo. We had Jack. We had a lot of young anglers that were so in tune, that were so helpful. Milan is definitely going to be the next Christelle. She's going to be running the an MFN or NOWT event. She's just like her mother, but needless to say, you are 100% right. And I was set back. I was taken back this weekend, seeing the number of young anglers that stepped up in a huge way and helped.
Dude, I wonder. Okay, now I'm thinking out loud here because I've had time to ponder this. I wonder if there's an opportunity out here going into next year where we can do something with CFN to not just, we do a great job promoting young anglers, but promoting those young anglers who are doing that little bit extra. If any of us went to Andy Pilata and Vita at CSFL, if we had kids and not just kids, but you have probably the high school level where they can get some volunteer hours. We need to get them more involved in these fishing events. And look at the derbies, all the kids derbies. So many of us are involved with. Jim does so many every year, and being able to recognize some volunteers at those events, and not just the adults but the kids.
Yep.
Those high schoolers at those events where they need their volunteer hours anyways.
Yeah.
I'll give a shout out to Owen. Owen's mom actually reached out to me 2 years ago and says, Owen doesn't want to get his volunteer hours just anywhere. He wants to have a fish in his hand. I'm like, I'll take care of Owen. Don't you worry about that.
That's awesome.
But I bet you if I walk down the street, I could find 10 kids that would love to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got to do something. We got to do something, Scotty, maybe going next year, some sort of promoting young people to do their volunteer hours with fishing events. And there's so many fishing events that need volunteers, right?
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Jay, as always, it is a pleasure to have you. We know you're busy. You've got an early start, I'm sure, again tomorrow. So we will let you be. But as always, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. And thank you for bringing what you do to our community.
My pleasure, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk to you later.
All the best, my friend. We will talk to Lawrence right after a word from our sponsor.
What is Flash Boost? Shimano designed innovative Flash Boost technology. It keeps flashing, which attracts fish whether in a pause or while retrieving. The mirror plate, which is fixed by a spring inside the body, vibrates with the lure action to generate diffuse reflection. Even if you stop the lure action, the inner plate will move and continue to flash, giving the lure a sense of life and inviting a fish bite. This is Flash Boost.
This is Lawrence Gunther.
Finally.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Good. We just missed you, unfortunately. When we came to you, obviously you were having a little bit of technical difficulties. For that, we will get right to it. I know you've got a plethora of stuff to talk about. Let her rip, my friend.
All righty. So I got. So who's swabbling the last fish on the Skeena River? And that's the northern part of Vancouver, British Columbia. And there's a lot of fishing lodges on there that deal with steelhead. People want to catch steelhead. People book years in advance to catch steelhead. So it was a bit of a hit and miss this year, whether the steelhead season was even going to open. It did open, but there's a lot of pressure on these organizations. You know, when you're trying to recruit guides, when you're trying to recruit chefs for your fishing lodges, and you can't even tell them that there's going to be clientele coming. When you're trying to book customers and you don't even know if there's going to be customers coming and the fishing's going to be open. So they did open the season and did say, though, that it could be closed again at any time. But it's open now. It's open. So that's a good thing. It's open. It's just all that doubt, all that, you know, lack of assuredness. It's scaring away the business. And if you're dealing with, you know, the Skeena River watershed and that's solid tourism up there, that's what brings up the bacon, man. That's what makes the money. It's tough, and it puts a lot of people into stress on that stuff.
100%. Lawrence, just bring the mic down. Bring it closer. Yeah, closer to your mouth. Perfect. You're just cutting out a little bit. Okay. But yeah, that is a good point, and it's nice to see now. My son, on that note, my son did share something with me that I believe is live now. It's available, and it's basically a backlash that is currently going on with some of the commercial boats out on the West Coast. That, there's claims that perhaps the fishery isn't as bad as they're claiming. Perhaps there's no reason to shut down certain runs like they have. This, that, and everything else. I forget what it is, and I should have been a little bit more prepared so I could talk about it a little bit more, but I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. There is that debate. There is that critical thinking going on right now. Are we just listening to government, or are we listening to the facts, and are we involving science?
Well, we're gonna cover that for sure. I've got some of that information here. So first of all, even the rockfish on the West Coast, right? So there's a lot of articles, a lot of commentary on whether the rockfish that are protected in over 160 different locations up and down the West Coast of Canada. These are fish that live in maybe anywhere from 50 to 150 feet of water. They associate to rocks along the shore, and they're pretty easy to catch because they're always there. You're not just fooling around out in the open water. They do like to hang around the structure. So you know how to catch them, you know where to catch them. And they created these over 160 areas where these fish are protected because they're so easily targeted. I'm not going to get into forward-looking sonar. You don't need that. You just need to have a good map. But the problem is, when you hear this commentary being issued by various magazines and newsletters, they're talking about overfishing. they always sort of combine to talk about fishing. They don't talk about commercial fishing because a lot of these fish are caught incidentally by commercial boats that are targeting other species, but somehow pick up these rock fish along the way. And they have to release them, but they've brought them up from 100, 150 feet down. And when they release them, they've got their trauma. Those fish aren't getting back in. So that was a big problem. But now the government says, well, maybe they took a page out of the playbook down in Florida, and they made all fishing boats now carry descending devices, right? So these are clips that attach to the fish's lip, and then it's lowered down, and then the clip is released, and the fish is released at depth. So that's pretty cool that they're using this technology now. But at the same time, they say there's a potential of more sort of poaching going on, and DFOs worried about that. So we've got to, if we want to distinguish ourselves from commercial fishing boats as recreational anglers, we need to make sure we're our hands clean. I'm not talking about clean from fish guys. I'm talking about, don't get caught poaching, don't get out there poaching, put on a good show, be responsible, and make sure you don't give anglers a black eye on this stuff, because we don't want to be mixed in with what you're talking about, where commercial fishing boats are seen as over harvested, because that's all we ever hear about, in the media, from environmental groups around the world, everywhere, is over harvesting of fish by commercial fishing boats. And unfortunately, recreational areas get lumped in with that quite often, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I'm not going to get into that, but it does happen.
No, 100%. And one thing too that we talked a little bit about this weekend with some anglers up there, of course, is the image currently that angling has during COVID. It was a very sought after and protected pastime that we dug our heels in and said, if you want us to social distance and get out and enjoy the outdoors and each other, at least get out and fish, get out and do something, right? Now we have, of course, these tournaments that are stuffing fish with weights. We've got people tying fish together in rivers during tournaments. We have bloodbaths of fish being kept that we see, not properly held or handled. There is a lot of negativity out there. It's not really something that we necessarily want to touch on and talk about. I want to applaud our CFNers. So for you folks who listen, for you folks who watch each week, for you folks who follow the rules, this is a tip of the hat to you, because at the end of the day, there are enough situations, examples out there where we are getting bombarded with negativity, and we need to build a positive group that of like-minded anglers. And to you folks at CFN and OFC Nation, you're doing that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I got some interesting news here on a lake in Ontario, Golden Lake. It's about an hour and 45 minutes from Ottawa.
Used to be a fantastic walleye fishery. I don't know if it still is.
No, it was in the 70s and 80s. And then something happened. And they cut back on the fishing there for about 6-7 years to rebuild the fish stocks. And the walleye fish stocks did recover. And they did come back. And the spawners are there. And there are lots of walleye being laid. Lots of walleye fry being hatched out of those eggs. But they don't get much further than that, and you wouldn't believe what's the culprit is. Take a guess. I'm sure everyone knows.
I want to say overfishing.
No, it's smelt, rainbow smelt.
Oh, rainbow smelt.
They're
again a lot of
the walleye fry.
Yeah, a lot of folks don't realize that there are two types of smelt. Rainbow smelt, although they are pretty and can feed fish, certainly eat their fair share of young walleye smelt. So yeah, great point.
Yeah. So if we're ever going to see Golden Lake return to its former glory, we've got to go out there and do something about the rainbow smelt. And they're an invasive species, right? They're in a lake. Now, I had some friends go out last fall, and they got themselves a good haul. I'm going out this fall. I'm going to do it myself. But, nothing like a good haul of smelt. I mean, I'm not going to take home a garbage bag or a garbage can full of them, because you can only eat so many of the things, and then you throw them in the freezer if you ever eat them again, that's hard to say. I mean, they're good fresh and they're good ones, but I'm doing my shot for that for sure.
Amen. 100%. All right, let's keep going.
So the coho fishery is shutting down on the Yukon River again. So we've got coho and Chinook in trouble on the Yukon River. That poor river, man, that just can't catch a break. It's and it's such a iconic river. It goes through Alaska, it goes into the Yukon territories. I think it's like 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers long. It's just a massively long river, and it just can't catch a break. All the rivers up there, we're having strong salmon runs, and the Yukon just is not one of them.
Yeah, you've obviously got forest fires that are an issue. You have all the runoff now with the heavy, immense rains that are going on. But yeah, these poor rivers don't have a chance to continue their trend of cleanliness, clarity, and nutrients like they once were. They are being bombarded with Mother Nature.
The Cowichan River on Vancouver Island is doing pretty good with pink salmon this year. They've got a really good return on pink salmon, although the water level is low, so that's problematic, but the returns are good. And the Fraser River sockeye and Chinook are really good this year. So, this is probably about that controversy you're talking about, Scotty, is, are the salmon back? Are they returning? And we're having some fairly good numbers of Chinook showing up at the Fraser River. So that's a good sign. I'm told the recreational angling community is somewhat pleased about these numbers, and rightfully so. Is it the hatcheries? Is it what's responsible for this? Is it the sort of the semi-closures we've had in place for the last 2 or 3 years that are helping with this? It's hard to say what's causing the return, but the numbers are better this year than they have been in a while. So that's good news.
Well, it concerns me because if anybody remembers when they shut the inshore fishermen, they shut down inshore fishing out in the East Coast. Remember the rioting that went on from the anglers? You remember all that?
Oh, yeah.
I see something similar on the horizon on the West Coast with regards to the salmon.
Yeah, it's tough, man. This is really like a religion out there on the West Coast, right? Salmon,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. I mean, it's such an iconic fish. It's I don't know how many people remember what it's like when the cod stocks dropped off on the East Coast and
Yeah.
were eventually closed in '92.
Yeah.
That's like 31 years ago, right?
Do you remember the rioting?
Oh, yeah.
The anglers did not take kindly to that, and it got violent. There were some black eyes, unfortunately, that a lot of the Eastern anglers had to wear after that because of certain people conducting themselves badly. But at the end of the day, you're taking food off people's table, and I've always said, never take away a man's ability to make a living. When you do that, all bets are off, and you're basically backing a wild animal into a corner. So
it's beyond that, Scott. It goes beyond that. Like you look at Newfoundland,
Yeah.
All those coastal communities, all those coastal fishing communities that were established for one reason, to be close to the cod. The cod are gone. There's no more reason to have these small coastal fishing villages in existence anymore because there's nothing for them to do. So
Right.
people are being paid by the government to leave those communities behind. And the only growth area in Newfoundland is St. John's. The
Yeah.
population in St. John's is growing, and it's only growing because people are moving there from these coastal communities that used to be cod fishing communities. And they're leaving those communities because the cod just have never come back. In 31 years, they really haven't come back in any degree that would give them hope that the fisheries will reopen.
100%.
This could easily happen on the West Coast, right? All these communities that survive on salmon fishing, whether it's commercial or recreational, they're counting on those tourist dollars and those tourists showing up and staying a week to go do fishing and chartering and hotels and restaurants and all that. If that dries up, we'll see the knock-on effects for that for 30 years like they are in Newfoundland. 30 years later, these communities are still being shut down and people moving away. 30 years later.
100%. And some positive news, as Jeremy shared, and I would have to say that I don't know if, in fact, this is true, but he had heard that Bowmanville had a record salmon run this year based on the pictures. Even not just this past weekend, but the weekend before, the amount of salmon that were caught 2 weekends ago, 2 Saturdays ago. Holy Hannah, that was a lot of fish. So, Jeremy, good of you to point out it is a positive takeaway. So even though we might be struggling on our east and west coast, we're doing very well here in the Lake Ontario tributaries.
Yeah, I've got a guest we're going to have on the Bluefish Radio Show talking about the salmon and steelhead and brown trout and lake trout and walleye populations and perch along the north coast of Lake Ontario, the northern shoreline of Lake Ontario. There's so much confusing and contradictory information about those fish stocks. You know, are the fish breeding? Are they, sustaining themselves? Are they only there because of hatcheries? There's so much confusion. So there's this fish biologist. He's been working on it for 25 years. He's a consultant now. He's been on all the round tables. He's been on all the advisory committees. He's agreed to come on the show, and we'll just take that northern shore of Lake Ontario. We'll go from west to east, and we'll cover the whole thing and get a better understanding. So I'm looking forward to that. It's Lake Ontario 101, but I think we could all benefit from that because really Lake Ontario is the most productive fishery of all the Great Lakes right now. It's like,
is it really?
It's doing well.
Is it really? That's good to hear. Fantastic news. All right, we got enough time for a couple more.
All right. There's a research that came out, and they say there's 37,000 invasive species that have been introduced around the world. About 3,500 of those have had serious impacts on the ecosystem that they invaded. 60% of animal extinctions around the world are due to invasive species. $423 billion US in terms of economic loss was that number was derived in 2019. That was the amount of economic loss brought about by these invasive species.
So you're saying, okay, let's go over the bullet points of this again. How many invasive species were identified?
37,000.
37,000 invasive species of fish.
Incidents of invasive species in habitation. Yeah.
Oh, so, okay. So habitat. You were talking fish. We're talking about all kinds of invasive species. Not just okay. And how much did it account to take away?
Okay, out of that, 3,500 incidents where there were serious impacts in the ecosystem. 60% of loss of plant and animal life that we know was result of invasive species, and the cost in 2019 for that year alone, $423 billion. $423 billion in 1 year alone.
Holy smokes!
U.S. dollars. So that's close to 600 billion Canadian, right?
Holy,
that's serious number, man. That's serious number.
That's a huge number. Wow.
That's what I got for you, buddy.
I don't even know what to say. That to me, it just doesn't even. No comment is going to give a true gauge or. There's no way I'm going to properly address that because that's a staggering amount of money. Wow. All right, sir. What else you got for us?
No, that's that. You're gonna have to wait until next week to get the rest of it out of me, or visit the bluefishcanada.ca website. Sign up for the news. You'll see the news posted up there. You'll also see some links to the news release we just put out about the Bluefish Exploration Center that I've been working hard. We had a lot of volunteers up there throughout the month of August and into September. Just doing that 1,700 square foot building, we're turning it into a research station, and just a lot of work, my friend. A lot of work. We've had some architects up there, some engineers. We've committed to make the entire building and the property fully accessible for people with all types of disabilities. That's my commitment, and so it's a work in progress. We're making some good headway.
Dude, that's awesome to hear. That's absolutely awesome to hear because, Jay talked about it. Jim and I talked about it. I'm sure Moose and I are going to talk about it shortly. When it comes to seeing the future anglers, the next gen of anglers, basically those who are going to carry on our legacy of what it is that we've done. It's encouraging at points. It's encouraging at times, but it's also discouraging as well. But needless to say, if we're not doing anything, then we're doing a huge injustice. So thanks for doing what you do, my friend.
On you too, Scotty. All of it, you're spending all your free time when you're not working your incredibly stressful job. You're traveling around and giving back in so many incredible ways. Thank you.
Well, you know what, dude? And here's a great idea. Jeremy, I never even thought of this. It sounds like a CFN meet and greet is brewing for your grand opening.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
I'd love to get the feedback.
Good idea. I like that, buddy.
Yeah.
As always, Lawrence.
Hammer and do some work at the same time.
There you go. As always, my friend, thanks for that. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to help out and swing a hammer, hopefully not at each other. And until next week, my friend, you stay classy, stay healthy, and stay safe.
Thanks, Scotty. See you later, buddy.
All the best, my friend. And here is a word from our sponsor just before we talk to the almighty Moose Bertu. Moose is in the house.
What's happening? What's going on?
Thank you so much for your patience, buddy. It's always a pleasure. It took us a while to get to you. It was Monday Madness here at CFN Live. Cameras were going off. You were on the phone with someone. We couldn't go to you. Jay stepped up. It was awesome. It's awesome to see being able to.
No, it's nice to sit around and have time to listen. It's not very often that I get to listen to it live, and so I always end up watching the rebroadcast, but half the time people are calling me and telling me what it was all about. Tony, what's going on? What's happening? Brian.
So Moose, you've been busy. I know it's like how many tournaments have you got left? CSFL?
I've got 2 left. Potentially 3. It all depends on if I've got time to head out to the East End. Andy's got 2 more of his pro events left, and what's up, Ed? And then we just had the classic on the weekend where Joey pulled off dude, sitting up on stage like you were saying, and you don't know when you have an idea but you're not 100% sure is the coolest feeling. But anyway, we've got our DAA classic on Jack's Lake coming up at the end of the month. We've got before that the next weekend is, I believe, Franny or Ganny, one of the two. And then the OFC Nation retreat. So yeah, every weekend I will be on a body of water. But this weekend we had our classic. It was Colby's second classic. So that was a really cool experience for him. And the Joeys pulled it off. Halliburton, incredible town. The people were on, dude, the coolest thing. Okay, so the way it worked there was there was 5 different lakes, right? So you had Head, Cache, Shawigga, Baga, Maga, Maga, Grass, Sawyer, and Canning. And where we launched the boats and where we actually blast off. There's 2 10K zones, and then there was a third area through grass, which we decided we weren't going to let people blast off there because it was just it's a small little lake and it's a short little jaunt.
Yeah.
Long story short, coolest thing ever was both mornings you had 80 boats line up, and everybody goes under the river and down the river and past a bunch of local businesses and homes and cottages. And dude, these people are out on their docks at like 7, 8 a.m., 7:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's waving and good luck. And like not 1 or 2. I'm talking like half the town of Halliburton was out on their docks. It was cool. Not half the town, but you guys know what I mean. Like there's a lot of people out. The nicest people I have met on the water. I didn't get yelled at by one cottage. Don't fish my dock. I didn't get yelled at by a sea-doer. They welcomed us with open arms, which was really cool. Really, really cool.
That's a great part of it too, Moose, is seeing the community rally around these events in such a way. And truly it's what's going to allow these events to continue. Because if we get the latter, which is what we're used to getting yelled at, it does.
Which, by the way, listen, let's take some things into consideration here. And there was a post that I read about a week ago that put things into perspective. We, as fishermen, have more respect for the water than I would say 80% of the boats out there. And the reason why is we want to continue to do this for the rest of our lives, and we want our kids to do this, and we're always the one cleaning up after all the other boaters. Well, I mean, maybe we're not the only ones, but bass fishermen, bass boats don't really do the damage that people seem to think they do. I mean, again, Halliburton's beautiful, and everybody's entitled to having whatever type of boat they want. But if I'm going through a 10K zone and I'm idling, my boat isn't making as much of a wake as, as a ski nautique. You know what I mean? Like you got 1,800 pounds of water that these things take on, and it's made to make wake. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not disturbing you by whatever, cruising by. I don't make wake. There's a lot of things to take into consideration when it comes to boating. And I honestly think that bass fishermen in general, take more care of the waterways, of the boat launches, garbage, things afloat than most other boats out there. And that's my opinion.
I would agree when it comes to the wakeboarders, and I don't mean any disrespect to wakeboarding, but to make those kind of wakes, there unfortunately is an element that Moose just talked about where they got to bring water in on the boat, in the ducts, and fill it all up so that the wake is
huge. I smoked a wave this weekend. It sent me a flying. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I know what I'm getting myself into, and I understand when I see a boat like that size coming towards me, I'm going to slow down. And you know what was actually really cool? And this was a lot of fun. So there was a guy out in one of these, just a bow rider with him and his family, and they were towing around a big tube. And I could tell that he was following like Sea-Doos and other boats to kind of, give that tube a little bit of a thump. And we were cruising back. We were on our way back for weigh-in. And I see these people and they're waving. So I wave back. As you drive by, so you wave back. So I slowed down and I started doing circles. And he looks up in the air and he starts fist pumping. And doesn't he take his boat in and around? So him and I are doing figure eights around each other just so they can have a good time and get more wakes and stuff like that. And I gave him a clap and a hell yeah. And then I took off and that was it. And he loved every minute of it. You know what I mean? Like we were out in the middle of the lake. There was no wake zones and blah, 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 and all that stuff. But people like that are the people that, enjoy that sort of stuff. So that was kind of cool. One thing that someone brought this to the meeting this weekend. No wake zones and 10K zones are two completely different things. And I never really thought about it, right? No wake zones are, what's that?
I would have thought they were one and the same.
You would think, but I guess they're not. Think about it. A no wake zone, you're literally just in gear, no wake. 10K zones, you're going 10K. So you're making a bit more of a wake, but you're just a 10K. So there's no wake and 10K zones. And then I don't know, it was brought to my attention at the meeting. And I thought it was a pretty valid point. There's areas where there's no wake, which is basically you're puttering, zero wake, zero throttle, just in gear. And then there's areas where it's no wake, 10K zone, and there's areas where it's 10K zone.
Interesting.
I thought it was interesting. To me, it all seemed the same. And I mean, to most of the boaters, I'm sure it's the same. In the rule book or whatever it is, I'm sure it's the same. But if you think about it, people that have signs that say no wake, they would appreciate just in gear, not 10K. Because 10K still makes a wake.
It almost seems like the analogy of the library and the discotheque, two totally different ends of the spectrum. But
yeah, yeah, it was neat.
No, Tony was asking if you were wearing your Speedo, but Brian truly loves the pontoons that come between you and the shore and ask if you're catching anything.
Listen, whether it's I don't mind if a boat. It's different if a boat approaches me, whether it's a pontoon, an aluminum, an inflatable. I don't care what it is, a kayaker. If you're approaching me to ask how my day's going and, you know, how the fishing is and maybe you want a tip or, hey, I'm not catching them. What do you know, is there something special that I should be doing? I invite that. If there's a boat and they are, you know, just inching closer because they're watching me catch fish and they're just inching closer. And I know they're trying to figure out what I'm doing or marking spots or whatever the case may be. I'm not really a big fan of that. Like, I don't mind fishing the same water 10 feet away from someone. So at the end of the day, you got to be able to catch them. I can give you the zone, but you still got to be able to catch them. So I invite boats to come out, ask questions. I don't have a problem with it. Some guys do, some guys don't. I mean, if you're going to approach anybody on the water because you, for whatever reason, say hello first. Hey, do you mind if I ask you a question? Hey, do you mind if I come a bit closer and discuss something with you so I'm not yelling across the lake and waking people up or, you know, just, hey, how's it going? Good. If they engage in a conversation, sure, engage in a conversation. Doesn't mean perch up next to them, take a bunch of casts and, you know, look at what's in their boat. And it's just one of those things.
Yes, Ed is saying not so much. Sailboaters are the worst for him. I do recall on Lake Ontario where I honestly thought Ed was going to set somebody on fire. But anyway, that I digress. And as you're right, giving out advice. I got a plethora.
Speeders I'm not a fan of.
I got a plethora of great information from the NOWT anglers this past weekend. They were giving up knowledge left, right, and center. And Moose, I really got to stock up on Red Devils.
Oh boy. Listen, there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. I'll tell you this. Everything works. There's a situation for everything. There's a way to fish stuff that everything works. Yeah. It's just one of those things. But going back to I posted a video, okay? And a lot of people had asked me about this. I posted a video of a guy on his dock losing his mind, and I had already passed his dock. And there might have been a miscommunication or misunderstanding because of the video that was posted. He wasn't necessarily yelling at me for fishing his dock. He was and he wasn't. But I was yelling at him. I was the one at fault first because I was the one that was rude. So this is circulated around the internet. But if you own a Sea-Doo and you want to have some fun, sure. If I'm ripping down the lake, feel free to use my wake. But if I'm ripping down the lake and you're on a Sea-Doo and you rip in front of me, chances are you're endangering my life, my partner's life, and your own life. And there's two things that could happen. I could slow down and the person behind me can hit me, or I continue to go forward and smoke you. I don't want to do either one of those things. So if you're a Sea-Dooer, just have some respect for other boats on the water. On top of that, yeah, I might have been angry because of what you'd done, but just understand that it was coming out of frustration because here you are not knowing what you've done. You think you're having fun, but you're too close to another boat. Yeah. And if you're too close to another boat, I'm going to tell you how it is and how it's going to be. Unfortunately, this guy didn't like what I had to say. I didn't like what he had to say, and we had exchanged some words. But at the end of the day, you know, I told him, you have a good one. You learned your lesson. He says, well, you have a good one. You've learned your lesson. See you later.
Amen. Sounds like you were both with Brampton.
What's that?
It sounds like you were boating in Brampton.
I was boating at Rice Lake, bro. There's a lot of angry people on Rice Lake. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And you know what's funny? This conversation over dinner on Friday night, Saturday night, Friday night after the Anglers dinner, after the Anglers meeting, everybody had a story to tell. And there was guys that, you know, there was guys where, you know, it's the same dock and it's the same people. And the one guy says to him, he says, "Nice to see you. Where's your wife? I haven't seen her this year," kind of thing. Like, you know, she doesn't see it. And the one guy said to me, he goes, "Doesn't this get old? Don't you get tired of this?" He says, "But I'm not fishing your dock. I'm close to your dock. I don't go anywhere near my dock." And I get it. If you want to fish docks, fish docks. But at the same time, if you're a cottager, understand that we're not there to hook your ropes and throw a lure into your boat. There's a lot of angry people out there, man. It's wild. Some of the stories I heard were people getting shot at, people getting bricks thrown into their boat. Oh yeah, dude, Colby and I got shot at on Coochie during duck season. True story.
Wow.
Absolutely. So
okay, well,
that's always fun.
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of making sure all of our CFNers are safe, Steve wants a heads up to anybody who is going to be on Rice Lake and the Autonomy River. It is the annual Big Boys Poker Run.
Yes.
If you've ever seen it, been anywhere close to it, there's a reason Steve's mentioning this, because when they come screaming up that river, you have seconds to decide what you're going to do. So good to point out there. And, of course, Sonia has talked about similar situations, you know, standing up, trying to do her thing on her kayak, and then almost getting swamped by folks that don't understand that there are speed limits, don't understand that kayaks are not big, you know, deep boats. So
for sure, if I come ripping down the lake and there's a kayak, and you know what's funny? This happened this weekend. Again, thank you for mentioning that. A couple people are on their paddle boards. It's in the morning. They're enjoying a nice paddle, and we got 80 boats trying to get to their spots. I swear to you, we come out of the 10K zone, everybody throttles down, boom, it's all systems go. Come around the corner, come around this bend to head towards Sawyer, every single boat stopped and went back to idle until they passed these two older ladies that were on their paddle boards, and then they went back to full throttle. Just 100 yards down was the 10K zone. But like, having respect for others on the water is key. Those paddle boards, if somebody tips over and God forbid anything happens, there happens to be a rock there and they hit their heads, you don't know. You have no idea. Just because they have a life jacket on don't mean it's safe. 100%. So just be mindful of other boaters. Sea-doers, be mindful of fishermen. Fishermen, be mindful of sea-doers. And I say sea-doers because I'm sure the gentleman's watching. It is what it is.
On that note, we are here to talk about Camp McIntosh. It is Monster Monday, and Moose, are you getting excited to catch a monster?
I'm pumped. I'm pumped for a number of different reasons, actually. So I think Sean and I are probably going to head up a day early and do the whole. We're just going to go for an adventure the day before. There's talks about bringing up a kayak and maybe, going portaging past the rapids there and kayaking down there. There might be 3 special guests that show up. I can't say who, where, or when, what, but that's a good possibility. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of good prizes. There's a lot of really cool people going. And I just can't wait to get out there and fish. The weather this year is totally different so far. The weather is totally different than last year. So fingers crossed that A, the fishing's good. B, the weather holds up. And C, I don't smoke my lower unit.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. But no, we're all excited. There are some spots left, though. So for those of you that are interested in going, reach out, please. I think there's only 4 or 6. Cabin 5, basically. Cabin 5 is the only one left. 3 days, 2 nights, 300. Put that back up for a second.
Yeah.
3 days, 2 nights, $380. An extra night is $190. But guys, that includes everything. That's gas, boat, motor, cabin, fun, entertainment, worms if you use worms. It's everything. It's all of it. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, Where have you gone for a weekend where you're not spending $350 a night, let alone for a whole weekend with a gas and a boat, a gas with gas, boat, and a motor, right? So, yeah, it's worth it. Well worth it. Beautiful location, incredible people. We've got loads of prizing. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And Tracy and Andre do a fantastic job. The grounds are immaculate. They're so well groomed. That was the first thing I said. I was like, tell me you don't take a weed whacker to every single one of these rocks. And sure enough, they do. The grounds are beautiful. The cabins are beautiful. Yeah, and the fishing is awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Yep, 100%.
For sure.
Moose, as I said, you mentioned about a bunch of prizes. We're going to keep those under wraps, but let's just say there is a good potential that you could walk away to that of what you have paid to attend in prizing. And
in true fashion, should we mention anything at all?
Let's just say this. I think the carrot in front of the horse is you could potentially walk home with more than you paid to attend. That is a given.
Possible. Maybe we'll have some fun. We'll do some, mini tournaments or contests or something like that. But again, we just have some laughs. We do some fishing, and it's a great time. So you definitely don't want to miss out. There are 5 or 6 spots left, cabin 5, and that is it.
Wow.
So if you're interested, please reach out. Things are on the go. Grab bags and can't say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I won't say nothing. But what I will say, so last time I was on here, we talked about some product, and there was an incredible response.
Listen, I can't say it enough. Jay said it as well. He said that segment that Moose did on all the cameras, he went back 2 and 3 times to watch that. You did that on the fly, and that's what I said to Jay. Like, he said, did you give him a heads up? I said, Moose? No. He does stuff like that on the fly. I don't have to tell Moose anything. Moose has everything figured out. I just sit back like everybody else and watch and learn.
It was sort of on the fly. I had an idea of what I was going to talk about, but we had a great response from it. A lot of people reach out and ask questions. And there's a lot out there that I haven't, there's a lot out there that I'm still learning. There's a lot out there that I haven't used. So there was actually one guy reached out and said, hey, you should probably try this. And have you seen that? And da-da-da. And I said, no, but now that you've brought it to my attention, of course I'm going to buy it. I had to buy it. It's a must. Look at this thing. Right?
Is this a flashlight? Or, that's a camera.
Yes, sir. It's a camera.
Oh, wow.
Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy.
And that there is less intrusive than having, a GoPro on your forehead or on your chest. This looks like you could potentially be talking to somebody on the phone.
So I've had one of these before. It was a similar type of action camera. This one specifically, I'm a big fan of for a number of different reasons. And we'll kind of quickly break down some of my new finds. But this one's really cool. There's pros and cons to all these things, right? As I'm talking to you, my head's moving and shaking up and down, right? That's what you see on the camera. So a lot of the times, if you're a hand talker and your head doesn't move, or if you're a head talker and your whole body moves, there's going to be a lot of that in the video. So keep that in mind if you do choose to go down the action cam. And this is like one of the original action type cameras, helmet mounts for snowboarders, or working if you're a mechanic and you want to record stuff and put it out online, or this is the type of camera that's really versatile. And you can use it in multiple different ways. It doesn't have just a headpiece. I believe it comes with a clip, so you can put it on a tripod. You can put it on a gimbal mount. You can put it on a clamp. So what I will do is, I had some notes, but forget about those. Everything's out the window now. I'm going to share some pages here, but before we continue, you said something earlier about the camaraderie and the kids and the adults and being up on stage. Man, yeah, I hope you're going back. They must have invited you back, yes?
We're in the works right now. I think what the biggest takeaway for me was the anglers. The organizers, they know who I am. They obviously invited me up there. They didn't really know what I could do, what the potential was, but the anglers, and it almost got to a point where it was awkward. I think I was talking to you about that this morning. They were going up to the president and the board of directors and saying, listen, if we're going to have this tournament, like, he's got to be our MC. No pat. I mean, there is no better pat on the back for someone like myself, like you, like Mercer, like anybody who does that. Big Jim used to do it as well. There's no bigger accolade than having your peers acknowledge your efforts. And yes, I am hoping I'm going to be back up there. There is definitely a movement to try and get me up there, and we'll see where it goes. But needless to say, I'm looking forward to it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I don't know how to get this to share multiple tabs.
Well, it's difficult to do multiple tabs. That I can tell you.
I thought it was simple. Okay, so we'll do this the easy way. YOLOTech Canada, as you guys know, YOLOTech Canada, they have been huge supporters of the OFC Nation. And if you don't know, what's cool is they have their little action cam right here. So this green one, this is the YOLOTech action cam. So you don't necessarily have to have a GoPro or a DJI or this, that, and the other thing, but they have their own action cam. So this could be a one-stop shop for anybody who's looking for an action camera on a powered stick. So what YOLOTech is a power pole. It's a power stick that goes into your boat and provides you 2 USB ports and provides you power, constant power, so you can go and do your thing. So if you haven't heard of them and you're not really sure, they've got a light, they've got a camera, they've got battery system, they've got all kinds of stuff. So YOLOTech Canada would be one that I definitely would recommend checking out, because as soon as you get a camera, you're going to need to power that sucker up for more than 4 hours at a time. And let's face it, GoPros are great, but their batteries only last 30 minutes.
Yep.
True story. True story. YOLOTech Power Stick, definitely need to invest in one of these. Their action cam is fantastic. But on the other hand, we're going to go back to the action camera that I've got on my head, because we're all sort of in different price points, right? So with any good camera comes great features, and with any shitty camera comes shitty features. So I'm going to show you 3 different happy mediums, but understand that we all watch content on a 4 to 5 to 7 inch screen.
You got it.
So this is the one that I've got on my head. Now, this is what I call the happy medium. And each camera, they all pretty much do the same. They record video, right? Some of them record in 1080, some of them record in 720, and some of them record in 4K. At no point in time are you going to need to record in 4K and edit in 4K. It's just not going to happen. You don't have the CPU, you don't have the computing technology or power. Sorry, there is the technology. You don't have the power to do so. So there's no point in doing it. Because it records in 4K, fantastic. If you're just recording and throwing it out on a television or whatever, absolutely go ahead and record in 4K. But you want to also be able to record in 30 frames a second, 60 frames a second, and sometimes you want to record in 120 frames a second, because that takes your slow motion video to the next level.
Yeah.
So this one is the same one that I've got on my head right now. I highly recommend it. It has a little watch, or not watch, but it has like a little wristband, and I can control it from the wristband. Stop recording, start recording, change features, stuff like that. So a really cool find. And at a $259 price point, you can use this camera as a dash cam. You can use this camera as a security cam at the cottage. You can use this camera on your head like I am. So there's multiple uses for this camera.
For $259, it comes with all that.
For $259. Yeah, this is a really cool find. It gets better. It gets better. This is the happy medium. Now, as you guys all know, because I like buying things, I can't just buy the the cheapest or the most expensive. I need to know why things are the way they are. So I bought this one, right? And I'm loving this one. This one's fantastic. I'm going to get rid of this tab, and we're going to go to the next tab because I bought the other one too. Let's see.
Oh,
Share.
so is this a step up?
This is the step down.
Oh, step down. Okay.
Step down. No, sorry. This is the step up. So I'll show you the step up first.
Okay.
Same company, same camera. This is the step up. This is just the newest model. So it's $50 more. It does all the same stuff. There's probably a little bit more in the stability and technology within the actual unit. They all have little tiny gyros and stability and, that type of, so there is a lot more video stabilization built into this one. But again, you're watching it on a 4-inch screen. You're not going to see the difference in the movement or shake or clarity of it on a tiny little screen. Now, once you get to an 80-inch, I'm going to notice there's a little bit of vibration or a little bit of something. But the difference of $50 between the two units, fantastic. This one obviously has better battery life. They've just taken their old model and just upgraded it a little bit. And it costs you $50 more. So now let's go to the original, the OG.
The OG.
The OG. So the OG looks like, I wish I could just do this all in one tap. And again, if y'all have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Here's the OG. Share. Or sorry, the OG was the first one I showed you. Here's the cheapest one they make.
Wow.
Now, looking at all three of those, the mid-range one and the most expensive one and the cheap one, they all have the exact same technology with minute little tweaks to save you a bit of cash here and there. For $159 to get an action camera for $159, I don't care who you are. That's well worth it.
Amen.
Now, the battery life may not be as good as the other one, but this one records in 1080p, 60 frames a second. You don't need any more. And most of the time, you're only recording in 1080 at 30 frames a second. Right. 60 if you want more of that, like I said, more cinematic slow-mo. But once you get into slow-mo and you want to do crazy slow-mo, you're looking at, 120 frames a second is great. 200 and whatever it is absolutely fantastic. And then it goes up from there. But there's nothing wrong with this camera. I've used it. I've played with it. I've played with all three of them. I gave this one away, and I gave the most expensive one back because I found that this one was fine. It did everything I needed to do. So, again, explore. If you have any questions, let me know. But that's, as far as cameras go, that's the newest toy in my plethora of problems.
Well, it's a good problem to have. And Moose, I got to let you in on a bit of a secret. It arrived while I was gone up north, but there's a new underwater camera in the mix.
Come on, which one did you get? The Sea-Ray?
I can't say. No, I can't. It's new to North America.
Okay.
It's relatively cheap in comparison to a lot of underwater cameras. But what's really unique about it is basically an RC boat, right?
Yeah.
Maneuver. So you always see where the camera is, right? Remember with the camera that you had that you brought to the honey hole? You could only see the cord, right? And then you'd have to be looking at the screen. The beautiful thing about this is it is a boat that floats, and the camera retracts out of the bottom of the boat. It's called the Chasing F1 Pro, and it's sitting in the box. It just arrived. I can't wait to open it up to see how well it works.
Call me when the first muskie smokes it.
But it's interesting to say that, because that's probably what's going to end up happening. Is I can see me putting this in when the bats are guarding the bed. I'm going to be floating this thing around, retract the camera down, and boom. And I'm going to be on here crying, going, my camera's broken.
No, that's incredible. That's awesome. No, I'd love to see that thing in action. For anyone who is interested in an underwater drone with a high definition camera, I've got one for sale. Actually, I have two of them, but that's a whole nother segment. I shared another screen with you, and I think that this is one of those things that every person with an action camera, whether it be DJI Osmo or the Osmo, the DJI action cams, the GoPros, the Dragon Powers, the anything and everything. This is one thing that everybody needs. You can clip it onto anywhere. Perfect tool for so many different applications. And don't cheap out on these. I've been that guy. I found it for $5, so I'd buy it for $5. Found it for $10, so I'd buy it for $10. I've got a box full of broken parts. Spend the money on a good mount and a good power pole like YoloTech, or a good clamp like this one. You won't be disappointed. So that's definitely something that you need to have as well. And then once you get into the accessory world, sky's the limit, baby. Sky's the limit.
Amen.
But with every good camera is good audio.
Yes.
And just because you're putting out great content, video, and it has bad audio, that could make or break you.
Yeah.
Sitting around with the family, watching videos, if it has shitty audio, it doesn't make for fun viewing.
No.
So I'm gonna show you two more things, and then we'll discuss. So again, you know what? I don't need to tell you. The accessory kits that are out there, whether it be a GoPro accessory kit from $30 and you get a whole bunch of parts and chest mount and head mount and this mount and that mount, well worth it, because you never know what sort of situation you are going to be in and what parts you're going to need to mount things. Yeah, Richard, that clamp is fantastic. It's unbelievable. But with every good camera, you need a good microphone. And again, you can break the bank on a microphone. Yeah. But you know me, and I see things, and I want to buy them and try them and this, that, and the other thing. So I was intrigued by, let's see if I can find it here. This unit here, $59.95. Do you see that one?
Yep.
Okay. That unit, because we all have cell phones. Let me find the tab.
Oh, this is the one that they're featuring on Instagram.
Right. Well, careful though, because they got me. The one on Instagram is no bueno.
Oh.
No. The one on Instagram is a little bit different. There's two brands, which is this brand here, the I can't even pronounce that. Uzani, I don't know what Yolenzi, I don't know. Whatever that is, whatever this U something NZI, that brand is decent quality for your phone. And the transmitter, if your camera has a USB-C or the Lightning or the micro, they sell them in different tips. So that way you can plug it into your action camera, you can plug it into your cell phone, and then you get two microphones that have an incredible range. I don't think you need anything more than 50 to 100 feet, but there are different types of microphones for different situations. But for $59 to get clear audio when you're 10, 20, 30, 40 feet away, you can't go wrong for $59. Now, on the left-hand side where you see the DJI, that microphone is unbelievable. Audio is incredible. It never skips a beat. Comes with a charging case. I can't say enough about the DJI products. They are top notch. So you can get a single or a double, and I think those vary anywhere from $250 to $450. But again, you don't need to break the bank. Anything Booyah, so the Booyah microphone set, which is similar to this little one in the case. Booyah makes a great microphone as well. So don't be afraid, especially, and I keep showing this stuff on Amazon because one of these days I'm going to put myself into Amazon and create my own store of favorites and get paid on it. But no, Amazon takes things back, whereas a lot of other places don't. But if you want to save, $10, $20, go to the DJI website first, see what it's retailing for. Usually takes 3 to 5 business days. If they're advertising it on, Amazon for $10 more, but you get it tomorrow, fantastic. look at their return policy, because time and time again, people have always said to me, "Oh, I tried to return it, but I can't return it because of this or that." Blah blah blah. Amazon takes everything back, almost everything, but always look at the return policy. And I always buy through Amazon just because it's a little bit faster and a little bit more secure. There have been things that have gone missing in the mail, and some of these companies have not honored their return policy. I find that Amazon, I'd rather pay the extra $10 and just have that reassurance. You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense. Makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
So that's as far as video, video and accessories and audio. I'm not going to bore you with any more, but maybe we'll bring you more next week. But just poke around. Booyah Ulenzi, I think it's called. Booyah microphones, Ulenzi microphones, the clamps, and then the action cameras. And I mean, 500, 250, 150, and the other one is I think $300. They all do the same thing. They're all fantastic. So don't be afraid to buy a $75 camera. It'll do you.
The only thing that I wish, we're talking about AI. AI's in the news, right? Everything's about AI. If they could only come out with a reasonably priced video editor, someone to edit all of your videos.
You, my friend, just nailed it. There is.
There's so many things out there to make great content. What there is not is an easy, necessarily quick platform.
And here's what, and again, my opinion, no disrespect to anyone who uses any of these AI editors or templates. Templates are great. Templates are awesome. But I'm not going to watch content if you and 6 other people use the same song, the same transitions, the same layout. Yeah. It's just going to get boring.
Yeah.
So there is AI stuff out there that is very unique. But I find a lot of the stuff that you see out there, like, I can almost tell you 70, 80% of the time what software someone's using because they're using their templates. And there's nothing wrong with that. Your content will speak for itself.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? There is nothing wrong with that. Your content will speak for itself. But there are a few that I'm just not a fan of. It all looks the same. It all sounds the same. So a good one, a really good one. Whether you are just, the weekend warrior or just having fun with the family. And a lot of the times it's on my Instagram story and it's gone and it's forgotten. You know what I mean? And I do a yearly recap. I used to do a monthly recap. No more monthly recap. Because let's face it, these are just jam-packed full of technology. Yeah. They have a desktop version. I mean, if you want to take your videos to the next level, absolutely. Premiere Pro, you can't go wrong. There are layouts out there that you can purchase and transition packs. And if you want to get into, learning Premiere Pro or what's the other one? I went to school and I was taught on Premiere Pro, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. But on your phone and on your desktop. What's that?
Studio something, isn't it? Isn't
yeah, there's
Premiere Studio. I thought it was Premiere Studio. But,
I forget it.
I mean, listen, for like as Sonia said, you know what? At the end of the day, our background and our forte is fishing. Making videos necessarily is not our strong point, but something simple. If you have an Apple phone or iPad, iMovie works, and you can find
iMovie's great.
It is, and sometimes it can be very generic, very ordinary, but there are ways to make it look complex and make it look like you've spent a little bit of money. I wish I could give you some of the pointers. Some of the stuff I find just like dumb luck. Did I do that? Oh, I had no idea.
All the video editing software that you get, whether you're downloading it for free and there's a little, logo on the bottom corner and all that, try it out. It all does the same. All these things do the same thing. Some of them are more user-friendly than others. Some of them can handle hefty content. Some of them can't. The one I recommend, and the one that I've been using for a very long time, obviously is Premiere Pro. They have on a desktop. A little while later, timing was a thing. I just want to put together a quick kind of 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, 10-minute video, nothing crazy. Power Director. So this logo right here, see if I can get it.
Yeah.
Power Director. Power Director, incredible company. They've got Power Director, they've got Photo Director, they've got a whole bunch of different things, and they've got a desktop version as well. I would say it's almost 90% as powerful as Adobe Premiere, but it's 85% more user-friendly. Power Director is an awesome app if you guys want to, take videos with your phone and upload videos, music, transitions, audio, templates, layouts, anything and everything you can think of. Power Director does a really good job. So
is there a free version and a pro version to
There is a free version and a pro version, and it's not like the free version doesn't give you access to everything. The free version gives you enough access for you to create, to learn, and to want more. So it's nice. It's really nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's a really, really good one, is Power Director.
That's awesome, buddy. Well, listen, that is, again, as always, a wealth of information for us who are content creators that are looking to present our journeys, present our fishing days and our fishing events in a unique way that is eye-catching. And some of these beautiful things that accompany it, whether it be audio, video, Moose has shared with us. And as always, Moose, we thank you for your time, my friend.
Absolutely. We thank you guys as well for tuning in. And Scotty, thank you for everything that you do. I can't wait for Camp Mac, bro. Cannot wait.
Absolutely. Well, Moose, stick around. We'll come back to you after we're done, because I know you and I have lots to talk about the upcoming Macintosh trip and our OFC Nation 2nd annual retreat. So until then, dude,
are you bringing your Speedo?
It doesn't fit. I can't say it because this is a family show, but I'll say it to you after we're done. We'll come right back to you, buddy. Give me 2 seconds. All right. That is the one and only Moose, and we are so lucky to have a gentleman like that in our corner, in our community, and doing the wondrous things that he does behind the scenes. Because as I said, it is a team effort over here. This is a family affair. This is not just one person running with it and letting others sort of carry it when they want to. When you have the Steves, you have the Walters, you have the Mooses of the world doing some wondrous things happen. And I'll tell you this, we are seeing it on the regular. I know we're going to be taking a little bit of a step back because things are getting busy. But once we enjoy our weekend at Camp Macintosh, we will get back to the grassroots of what has made us a successful community and a great little positive fishing group. Until then, I want you guys to have yourselves a great week. Enjoy whatever it is you're going to do. Get out fishing like Moose says. Get out fishing like Jay says. Get out fishing like Jim says and Lawrence. And stay safe until next Monday. Oh, keep in mind, tomorrow, Turny Tuesday, we're going to be with Mike talking about the fall fish on. And he'll be giving us updates about that. Not to mention, if you know what this is your last chance, because Monday we're giving away the prize pack. We have 2, 4, 6, 8 correct answers so far. We're looking for a lot more. Tell me what this is. If you can't see it, there it is. Tell me what this is. We got an interesting prize pack for you. You got to PM me directly, like Blake Rader did, like James Shemry did, like Brian Sturch did, like Ed McKenzie did, like Jeremy Blenkow did, like Curtis Smith did, like Corey Arndt did, and Big Jim did. PM me directly with your answer, and we will put you on the wheel, and we will give away a great prize next Monday right here. Until then, Dave Mercer, take us away.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.